Tonight, a timid college student accidentally witnesses a kidnapping in the middle of downtown, and her decision to get involved will drag her into a world of power, danger, and secrets she never imagined. A world where one wrong move means death. A world ruled by a man who answers to no one. But sometimes, the quietest voices hide the strongest hearts. If you want to see how a girl too afraid to speak becomes the one who changes everything, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Taboo? The rain came down in sheets that Thursday night, turning the downtown streets into rivers of reflected neon. Mia Harper kept her head down, her backpack pulled tight against her chest like a shield. Water soaked through her sneakers with each hurried step, but she didn't slow down. She never slowed down when she walked alone at night. Keep moving. Don't make eye contact. Get home. The same 3 rules she'd lived by since starting college 2 years ago. The same rules that kept her safe in a city that felt too big, too loud, too full of people who might notice her if she wasn't careful. Her apartment was only 4 more blocks away. She could make it. She always made it. The bus stop ahead glowed yellow in the darkness, empty except for a hunched figure in a heavy coat. Mia crossed to the other side of the street without thinking about it. Safer that way. Always safer to avoid people when you could. Thunder rolled overhead, deep and threatening. She picked up her pace. That's when she heard the scream. It wasn't loud, more like a choked gasp that cut through the rain for just a second before disappearing. Mia's feet stopped moving before her brain caught up. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, water streaming down her face, her heart suddenly pounding against her ribs. Don't look. Keep walking. It's not your business. But her eyes had already found the source. Across the street, in the amber glow of the bank's exterior lights, 2 men in dark clothing were forcing a young woman toward a black SUV. The woman struggled, her high heels scraping against the wet pavement as she tried to pull away. One of the men had his hand clamped over her mouth. The other was holding her arms. Mia's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't happening. Things like this didn't happen, not in real life, not where people could see. But the street was empty. The rain had driven everyone inside. There was no one else. Just Mia, standing alone in the downpour, watching something she should not be watching. Call someone. Do something. Her hand moved to her pocket, fumbling for her phone, but her fingers were shaking so hard she nearly dropped it. The screen lit up, painfully bright in the darkness. She started to dial 911. The woman's purse hit the ground. It landed hard, the contents spilling across the wet sidewalk. A lipstick, some coins, a wallet that fell open. In the half second before one of the men kicked it aside, Mia saw something strange. A black card tucked behind the clear ID window. Not a credit card. Something else. Something that caught the light in a way that made her brain trip over itself trying to place what it was. Then the SUV door slammed shut, the engine roared to life, and the vehicle peeled away from the curb with a screech of tires on wet asphalt. Mia stood there, phone still in her hand, her thumb hovering over the call button. The street was empty again. Just the rain and the scattered contents of the purse lying in a puddle under the bank lights. Walk away. Pretend you didn't see anything. That's what the smart part of her brain was screaming, the part that had kept her safe, kept her invisible, kept her from drawing attention to herself for most of her life. Walk away and forget this happened. But her feet were already moving forward. She didn't understand why. It went against every instinct she'd carefully built up over the years. But something about that black card, about the way the woman had fought even though she was clearly terrified, about the wrongness of it all. It pulled her across the street like a rope around her chest. The purse was expensive, designer, maybe, though Mia wouldn't know the difference. She crouched down next to it, her hand still shaking, and picked up the wallet. The ID behind the plastic showed a young woman with dark hair and a bright smile. Isabella Hale, 23 years old. And there, behind the ID, was the black card. Mia pulled it out with wet fingers. It was heavier than a normal card, made of some kind of metal that felt cold even through the rain. No bank logo, no company name, just a single phone number embossed in silver on the back. Her brain was screaming at her now. Put it down. Walk away. This is not your problem. But Isabella Hale's smile in the ID photo looked so genuine, so alive, And Mia kept thinking about the way she'd fought against those men, kept thinking about the hand over her mouth, cutting off her scream. Before she could talk herself out of it, Mia pulled out her phone and dialed the number on the card. It rang once, twice. "State your location." The voice that answered was male, clipped, precise. Not a question, a command. Mia's voice came out barely above a whisper. There was, I saw, "Location now." She gave him the intersection, stammering over the street names. Her whole body was shaking now, not just her hands. What was she doing? Who had she just called? "Stay exactly where you are. Do not move. Do not speak to anyone. Someone will be there in 3 minutes." The line went dead. Mia stared at her phone, her heart hammering so hard she felt sick. 3 minutes. Someone would be here in 3 minutes. She should run. She should throw the wallet down and disappear before whoever was coming arrived. But she didn't move. The rain kept falling. Her clothes were completely soaked through now, her hair plastered to her face. She stood there under the bank lights, clutching Isabella Hale's wallet, and waited. 3 minutes turned out to be 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The first sign was the sound of engines. Multiple vehicles, coming fast. Then headlights appeared from both directions, moving with the kind of aggressive speed that made other cars swerve out of the way. 4 black SUVs, larger and more menacing than the one that had taken Isabella, converged on the intersection like they owned it. Mia's survival instincts finally kicked in. She backed up against the bank wall, trying to make herself smaller, invisible. What had she done? Who were these people? The vehicle stopped in a coordinated formation that blocked off the entire intersection. Doors opened simultaneously, and men stepped out. Not just men, soldiers, or something close to it. They moved with military precision, dressed in dark suits that did nothing to hide the weapons holstered at their sides. 8 of them, maybe 10, fanning out to secure the perimeter. And then he stepped out of the lead vehicle. Mia knew immediately that he was in charge. It wasn't just the way the others deferred to him or the expensive cut of his suit that somehow looked perfect despite the rain. It was something in the way he moved, like the world rearranged itself around him instead of the other way around. He was tall, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair that was starting to curl from the rain and a face that would have been handsome if it wasn't so hard. But it was his eyes that made Mia's breath catch. Dark, intense, and currently locked directly on her with a focus that made her want to sink into the pavement. He crossed the distance between them in long strides, his shoes splashing through puddles without hesitation. 2 of his men followed, flanking him. "You called." It wasn't a question. His voice was the same one from the phone, controlled, authoritative, with an edge that suggested he was used to being obeyed. Mia nodded, not trusting her voice. "You saw what happened." Another nod. She was still holding the wallet. He noticed, his eyes dropping to her hands for half a second before returning to her face. "Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out." They took her. 2 men, black SUV. She tried to fight, but they... Mia's voice was barely audible over the rain. She hated how weak she sounded, how pathetic. "I saw the card. I didn't know what else to do." The men. Describe them. I couldn't see their faces. They were wearing, I don't know, dark clothes. One was taller. The other had a tattoo on his hand, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. It was dark, and the rain... The vehicle. Make and model. I don't know cars. It was black, big, new, maybe. The license plate... She closed her eyes, trying to pull the memory up through her panic. It started with 7K something. I didn't see the rest. He was quiet for a moment, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Then he turned to one of the men behind him. "Pull traffic cam footage for a 10-block radius. Black SUV, partial plate 7K. Cross-reference with facial recognition from every camera on this street." The man nodded and immediately started speaking into a radio. The man in charge turned back to Mia. "What's your name?" "Mia. Mia Harper." "Mia Harper." He said it like he was filing it away. "I'm Victor Hale. The woman they took is my daughter." The world seemed to tilt slightly. Mia's grip on the wallet tightened. "Your daughter." "Yes?" Something flickered across his face, there and gone in an instant. Pain, maybe, or fury held under such tight control it could barely escape. You did the right thing by calling. That card is for emergencies only. Very few people have access to that number. She fought them, Mia said quietly. She didn't want to go. Victor's jaw tightened. No, she wouldn't have. He held out his hand. The wallet. Mia handed it over, her fingers brushing his for a fraction of a second. His hands were warm despite the rain, steady where hers were still trembling. He opened the wallet, his face betraying nothing as he looked at his daughter's ID. Then he closed it carefully and tucked it inside his jacket. How long ago? Maybe, 5 minutes? 6? I called right after they left. Which direction? Mia pointed east. That way, fast. Victor pulled out his phone and made a call. 6 minutes. Heading east from the 2nd Street branch. 2 men, black SUV, partial plate 7K unknown. Witness saw a tattoo on one suspect's hand. He paused, listening. No, she's with me. Yes. Do it now. He ended the call and looked at Mia again. The rain was coming down harder now, but he didn't seem to notice or care. You're in danger. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? If they were watching, which they likely were, they saw you make the call. They saw you pick up the wallet. That makes you a witness, a liability. His voice was matter-of-fact, like he was explaining a simple equation. You need protection until we resolve this. I can't. I need to go home. I have class tomorrow. I didn't mean to. Mia. He said her name with the same commanding tone he'd used to order his men around, and it shut her up immediately. Listen to me very carefully. The people who took my daughter are not ordinary criminals. They're professionals. If they think you can identify them, they will eliminate you. Tonight, if possible. Do you understand what I'm saying? She did, and the understanding made her knees feel weak. I'm going to keep you safe, Victor continued. But that means you come with me. Right now. No arguments. I don't even know who you are, Mia whispered. Yes, you do. His eyes held hers. You know exactly what I am. You knew the second you saw that card. That's why you're terrified right now. But you called anyway. That took courage. I'm not courageous. I'm the opposite of courageous. I can barely talk to people. I can't even order coffee without practicing what I'm going to say first. Her voice broke. I just saw her fighting and I thought someone should help. Something in Victor's expression softened, just barely. Then you're more courageous than you think. He gestured to one of the SUVs. Let's go. Where? Somewhere safe, where we can talk and you can tell me everything you remember in detail. Every second matters right now, Mia. My daughter's life depends on the information in your head. The weight of that statement nearly crushed her. She thought about walking away, about insisting she go home, about pretending this night had never happened. But Isabella Hale's smile flashed through her mind again, and she found herself nodding. Okay. Victor's hand touched her elbow, not grabbing, just guiding, and he led her toward the nearest SUV. One of his men opened the rear door. The interior was leather and luxury, warm and dry, such a stark contrast to the rain-soaked street that Mia felt like she was stepping into a different world. Victor slid in beside her. The door closed, shutting out the sound of the rain. One of the men got into the driver's seat, and without a word the vehicle began to move. Mia sat rigidly in her seat, her wet clothes soaking into the leather, her hands clasped in her lap to stop them from shaking. The other SUVs formed up around them, a convoy moving through the city streets with the kind of authority that made traffic lights seem optional. Where are we going? She asked again, quieter this time. My home. It's secure. No one can get to you there. What about my apartment? My roommate will worry if I don't. What's her number? Mia rattled it off automatically, still too shocked to question. Victor made another call, his voice taking on a different tone, still authoritative but less sharp. This is Victor Hale. I need you to relay a message to... He glanced at Mia. Sarah Chen, she provided. Sarah Chen. Tell her that Mia Harper is safe and assisting with an urgent matter. She won't be home tonight, but we'll make contact tomorrow. Yes, thank you. He ended the call and looked at Mia. Done. You can't just... Who was that? How do you know they'll actually tell her? I know because when I ask for something to be done, it gets done. He said it without arrogance, just simple fact. Your roommate will receive the message within 10 minutes. Mia stared at him. Who are you? Really? I told you, Victor Hale. That's not an answer. For the first time, something that might have been amusement flickered in his eyes. No, it's not. He leaned back in his seat, his gaze never leaving her face. I'm a businessman, Mia. I own properties, investments, various enterprises throughout the city and beyond. I employ a lot of people. I have resources. Businesses don't come with private armies and emergency contact cards. Mine do. The silence stretched between them. Outside, the city slid past, familiar streets that suddenly felt foreign, with Victor Hale sitting inches away, radiating a kind of power she'd never encountered before. What kind of businessism? She asked, even though part of her didn't want to know the answer. The kind that make enemies. He turned to look out the window. The kind that require security measures most people would consider excessive. The kind that put my daughter at risk simply by association. Is that what this is? Someone trying to get to you through her? Undoubtedly. His voice went hard again. Isabella knows to be careful. She knows the protocols. The fact that they managed to take her means they've been planning this for some time, which means they're serious, which means they're dangerous. Mia absorbed this, her mind racing. What do they want? Money, leverage, revenge. Does it matter? He looked at her again. What matters is getting her back. And you're going to help me do that. I don't know how. I just saw... You saw more than you think. The human brain records details we don't consciously register. Under the right conditions, with the right prompting, you can remember things you didn't know you noticed. He pulled out his phone and typed something. I have people who specialize in witness memory recovery. They'll work with you. I'm not a witness. I was just walking home. And now you're the only person who saw my daughter being taken. That makes you the most important person in my world right now, Mia Harper. The way he said it sent a chill down her spine. Not threatening exactly, but intense enough to make her realize just how far out of her depth she was. The convoy turned onto a private road, leaving the city lights behind. Trees lined both sides, their branches creating a canopy overhead that blocked out what little moonlight filtered through the storm clouds. They drove for another 5 minutes before gates appeared, massive iron things that opened automatically as they approached. Beyond the gates was a house. No, not a house, an estate. Even in the darkness and rain, Mia could see it was enormous. Modern architecture mixed with classical elements, all glass and stone and sharp angles. Lights blazed from dozens of windows. The convoy pulled into a circular driveway, stopping in front of a massive entrance. Victor's door opened before the vehicle had fully stopped. He stepped out, then turned back to offer Mia his hand. She took it because she wasn't sure her legs would support her otherwise. The rain had lessened to a drizzle. Men were already moving around them, speaking into radios, checking perimeters. It was like watching a military operation. Victor led her up the steps and through doors that were pulled open by staff who appeared out of nowhere. The entrance hall was 3 stories high, with a staircase that curved up like something out of a movie. Marble floors reflected the light from chandeliers that probably cost more than Mia's entire college education. She stood there dripping on the expensive marble, feeling more out of place than she'd ever felt in her life. Mr. Hale. A woman appeared from a side corridor, older, professionally dressed, carrying a tablet. The team is assembled in the operations room. Dr. Reeves is standing by for the witness interview. I've also prepared a guest room and arranged for clothing. Thank you, Grace. Victor turned to Mia. This is Grace Winters, my head of household staff. She'll take care of anything you need. Grace looked Mia up and down with an expression that was difficult to read. Not unkind, but assessing. Come with me, dear. Let's get you out of those wet clothes before you catch pneumonia. I need her in 20 minutes, Victor said. Showered, dry, and fed. Of course. Grace's hand touched Mia's shoulder, gentle but firm. This way. Mia let herself be led because she didn't know what else to do. They went up the grand staircase and down a hallway lined with art that was probably priceless. Grace opened a door into a bedroom that was bigger than Mia's entire apartment. "Bathroom's through there," Grace said, pointing. "I've laid out some clothes that should fit. We keep various sizes on hand for guests. Take a hot shower. There's a robe if you need it. I'll have food sent up." "I don't understand what's happening," Mia said quietly. Grace's expression softened slightly. "I imagine you don't. But Mr. Hale is a good man, whatever else he might be. If he says you're safe here, you're safe. Now, go get warm." She left, closing the door quietly behind her. Mia stood in the center of the enormous bedroom, still dripping, still trembling, and finally let herself process the last 30 minutes of her life. She'd witnessed a kidnapping, called a mysterious number, been picked up by what was essentially a private army, and now she was standing in a mansion that looked like it belonged in a magazine, being told she was about to help rescue someone she'd never met. This morning, her biggest worry had been whether she'd have to do a presentation in her psych class. Now she was somehow involved in something that involved men with guns and emergency protocols and witness memory recovery. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But underneath the fear was something else. Something that had made her cross that street and pick up that wallet in the first place. Isabella Hale had fought. Even scared, even outnumbered, she'd fought. Mia couldn't fight. She could barely speak to strangers without her voice shaking. But maybe she could do this. Maybe she could remember. Maybe she could help. She went into the bathroom and turned on the shower, letting the water heat up while she peeled off her soaked clothes. The bathroom alone was bigger than her bedroom at the apartment, all marble and glass and fixtures that looked like modern art. The hot water felt like heaven. She stood under the spray for longer than she should have, trying to steady her breathing, trying to calm the panic that kept threatening to overwhelm her. 20 minutes, Grace had said. Then she'd have to face Victor Hale again and tell him everything she'd seen. Everything she'd seen. She closed her eyes and let her mind drift back to that moment on the street. The rain, the scream, the two men forcing Isabella into the SUV. What had she seen? Really seen? The taller man had grabbed Isabella's arms. The shorter one had his hand over her mouth. They'd moved with coordination, like they'd practiced. The SUV had been waiting, engine already running. Someone had been driving, a third person she'd barely registered at the time. And the tattoo. She'd told Victor she thought she saw a tattoo, but had she? It was so dark, so wet, everything had happened so fast. But there was something about the shorter man's hand, something she'd noticed even in that brief glimpse. She needed to remember. Isabella's life might depend on it. Mia turned off the water and dried off with a towel that was softer than any she'd ever owned. The clothes Grace had left were simple but expensive. Dark jeans that fit perfectly, a soft sweater, even undergarments still in packaging. She dressed quickly, then looked at herself in the mirror. She looked terrified. Pale, wide-eyed, her damp hair hanging in tangles around her face. She looked exactly like what she was. A college student who was so far out of her depth she couldn't even see the surface anymore. But she'd made the call. That had to count for something. A knock on the bedroom door made her jump. She opened it to find Grace holding a tray. "Soup and bread," the older woman said, setting it on a side table. "Eat quickly. Mr. Hale is ready for you." The soup was some kind of chicken broth with vegetables, and despite her nerves, Mia's stomach reminded her she hadn't eaten since lunch. She forced down half the bowl and most of the bread, then followed Grace back downstairs. They didn't go back to the entrance hall. Instead, Grace led her through a series of corridors into what looked like the wing of the house, eventually stopping at a heavy wooden door. "The operations room," Grace said. "Just tell them what you saw. The truth. Nothing more, nothing less." She knocked once, then opened the door. The room beyond looked like something from a spy movie. Multiple screens covered one wall, showing what appeared to be live feeds from cameras around the estate and throughout the city. A large table dominated the center, covered with maps and tablets. At least a dozen people were in the room, some in suits, some in tactical gear, all of them focused on their tasks. Victor stood at the head of the table, his suit jacket removed, his sleeves rolled up. He was deep in conversation with a man in military fatigues, but he looked up the moment Mia entered. "Mia, come here." She walked toward him on shaking legs, aware of everyone in the room looking at her. Victor gestured to a chair. This is Dr. Reeves, he said, indicating a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair. She's going to help you remember what you saw. You can trust her. Dr. Reeves smiled. Hello, Mia. I know this is overwhelming, but I promise we'll take it slow. I'm just going to ask you some questions and walk you through the memory. Nothing invasive, nothing frightening. Just helping you access details your conscious mind might have overlooked. Is that all right? Mia nodded, not trusting her voice. Good. Let's begin. Each. For the next hour, Dr. Reeves guided her through the memory again and again, asking her to focus on different sensory details each time. What did she smell? What did she hear? What was the temperature, the texture of the rain? And slowly, incredibly, things started coming back. Details she didn't know she'd noticed. The taller man had a scar on his neck, visible even in the dim light. The shorter one wore rings, 3 of them on his right hand. And yes, there was a tattoo on his left hand, between his thumb and forefinger. A symbol of some kind. Mia couldn't quite make it out, but she could remember the general shape. Dr. Reeves had her work with a sketch artist who sat nearby, building the images piece by piece. The men's faces were still blurry in her memory, obscured by shadow and rain and panic, but their builds, their movements, the way they'd worked together, that came through clearly. And then there was the SUV. Under Dr. Reeves' careful questioning, Mia remembered more of the license plate, 7KB something, and there had been a dent in the rear bumper, driver's side. Victor watched the whole process in silence, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. When Dr. Reeves finally sat back and declared they'd gotten everything Mia could consciously access, he stepped forward. You did well, he said quietly. Will it help? Mia asked. Is it enough? It's more than we had an hour ago. He turned to one of the men at the computer stations. Run the facial recognition on the partial descriptions. Cross-reference the tattoo symbol with gang databases. And I want every black SUV matching that plate partial pulled from traffic cameras for the last 3 hours. On it, sir. Victor looked back at Mia. You should rest. It's late. I won't be able to sleep. Try anyway. Grace will show you back to your room. But Mia didn't move. What happens now? To find her? We follow the leads you've given us. We apply pressure in certain places. We wait for them to make contact with their demands. His jaw tightened, and we prepare to respond. Respond how? However necessary. The hardness in his voice made it clear that topic was closed. You've done your part, Mia. Let me do mine. She wanted to argue, to say she couldn't just go upstairs and pretend to sleep while Isabella was out there somewhere, terrified and in danger. But the exhaustion was catching up with her now, making her limbs heavy and her thoughts fuzzy. Okay, she said quietly. Grace appeared at her elbow as if summoned, guiding her out of the operations room and back through the maze of corridors. This time, Mia tried to pay attention to the route, but everything was starting to blur together. Back in the guest room, Grace turned down the bed and laid out pajamas that had appeared from somewhere. Try to sleep, dear, she said. Morning will come whether you're ready or not. Then she was gone, and Mia was alone in a room that cost more than her family's house, wearing borrowed clothes, her mind spinning with images of violence and fear, and a man named Victor Hale who commanded private armies and spoke in clipped sentences that people obeyed without question. She should call her parents. She should call Sarah and explain. She should do 100 things that made sense in her normal life. But nothing about tonight had been normal. She changed into the pajamas and climbed into bed. The mattress was absurdly comfortable. The sheets probably had a thread count higher than her GPA. But despite the luxury, despite the exhaustion, sleep didn't come. Instead, she lay in the darkness and thought about Isabella Hale fighting against her captors, about Victor Hale's carefully controlled fury, about the choice she'd made to pick up that wallet instead of walking away. Somewhere in this city, a young woman was being held against her will. And somehow, impossibly, Mia Harper, who couldn't even raise her hand in class without her heart racing, had become part of the story that would decide what happened next. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe slowly, tried to calm the fear that sat like a stone in her chest. Tomorrow, she told herself. Tomorrow she'd figure out what to do. Tomorrow she'd find a way to help. But tomorrow came sooner than she expected, arriving with the sound of urgent voices and running footsteps in the hallway outside her room. Mia sat up in bed, her heart immediately racing. The clock on the nightstand read 3:47 a.m. She'd been asleep for maybe 2 hours. The footsteps passed her door, heading toward what she thought was the operations room. She heard Victor's voice, sharp and commanding, though she couldn't make out the words. Something had happened. She should stay in bed. Mind her own business. Let the adults handle whatever crisis was unfolding. But Isabella's face flashed through her mind again, and Mia found herself getting out of bed, pulling on the robe Grace had left, and opening her door just a crack. The hallway was empty, but the voices were coming from the direction of the operations room. Mia crept down the corridor, her bare feet silent on the plush carpet. She knew she shouldn't. She knew this was exactly the kind of thing that got people in trouble in movies. But she had to know. The operations room door was ajar. Through the gap, she could see Victor standing at the table, his face illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. The man in military fatigues was speaking. Confirmed the location. Warehouse district near the old pier. They're definitely holding her there. How many? Victor's voice was deadly calm. At least 6 that we can confirm. Probably more inside. They're armed and expecting trouble. Then we'll give them trouble. Victor's hand came down on the table, not hard, but with finality. Assemble the team, full tactical. We go in 1 hour. Sir, if I may, this could be a trap. They might be expecting us to move exactly this way. I don't care. The fury in Victor's voice made Mia flinch even though she was hidden in the hallway. My daughter has been in their hands for 7 hours. Every minute that passes is another minute she's terrified and in danger. We're not waiting for better circumstances. We're going in. Now prepare the team. Yes, sir? Mia pulled back as people started moving in the room, afraid someone would come through the door and find her eavesdropping. She hurried back to her room and closed the door quietly, her heart pounding. They'd found Isabella. They were going to get her. Mia climbed back into bed, but sleep was impossible now. She lay there in the darkness, listening to the sounds of preparation echoing through the house. Vehicles starting, equipment being loaded, the controlled chaos of people preparing for violence. And she thought about Victor Hale, who'd spoken of applying pressure and responding however necessary, now ordering his people to storm a warehouse full of armed men to get his daughter back. She thought about Isabella, who'd been afraid and fighting just like Mia was afraid now, waiting in some dark room, hoping someone would come. Tomorrow, Mia had thought. Tomorrow, she'd figure out how to help. But tomorrow was already here, arriving with the sound of engines and weapons and men ready to go to war. And Mia was still just the girl who'd seen too much, lying in a borrowed bed, hoping she'd done enough. Mia must have dozed off at some point because she woke to pale gray light filtering through the curtains and the smell of coffee. For a confused moment, she thought she was in her dorm room. Then the events of the previous night crashed back and she sat up, her stomach twisting. The house was quiet. Too quiet after all the noise and movement she'd heard in the early morning hours. She checked the clock, 8:23 a.m. Had they gone? Were they back? Was Isabella safe? A soft knock on the door made her jump. "Come in," she called, her voice rough from sleep. Grace entered carrying a tray. "Good morning. I thought you might be hungry." "Did they—" Mia started, but Grace was already shaking her head. "They left at 5, no word yet." She set the tray on the bedside table. "Mr. Hale asked me to tell you to stay in the house. Don't go outside. Don't open the curtains more than necessary. Don't answer the door. The security team knows you're here, but we're keeping your presence quiet." "Why?" Grace's expression was carefully neutral. "Because the people who took Miss Isabella might still be looking for witnesses, and you, dear, are the only one who saw their faces." The coffee suddenly didn't seem so appealing. Mia's hands started shaking again, just like they had on the street last night. "How long will I have to stay here?" "Until Mr. Hale says otherwise." Grace moved toward the door. "There's a library down the hall if you want something to read. The gym is on the lower level. Try to keep yourself occupied. Waiting is always the hardest part." She left before Mia could ask any more questions. The breakfast was elaborate: eggs, toast, fresh fruit, yogurt, but Mia could only manage a few bites. Her stomach was too twisted with anxiety. She kept thinking about Victor and his team storming some warehouse, guns drawn, ready for a fight. What if something went wrong? What if Isabella got hurt in the crossfire? What if the men who took her decided she was more trouble than she was worth? Mia forced herself to eat the toast and drink some coffee, then got dressed in another set of clothes that had appeared in the closet overnight. Everything fit perfectly, which should have been comforting but instead felt unsettling. How did they know her sizes? How long had Victor been planning to keep her here? She found the library Grace had mentioned, a 2-story room lined with books that looked like they'd actually been read, not just bought for decoration. Leather chairs sat near tall windows that overlooked gardens she couldn't see clearly through the partially drawn curtains. She tried to read, but the words swam on the page without meaning. By noon, she was pacing. By 2, she was seriously considering breaking Grace's rules and going outside just to feel less trapped. By 3, she was back in the library pretending to read the same page she'd been staring at for the last hour. That's when she heard the vehicles. Multiple engines coming fast up the drive, doors slamming, voices shouting orders. Mia abandoned her book and ran to the window, pulling the curtain back just enough to see. The convoy was back, all 4 SUVs pulling up in the same formation as last night. Men were already jumping out, moving with urgent purpose. And there, being helped from the second vehicle by 2 of Victor's men, was a young woman with dark hair. Isabella. Mia's breath caught. She was alive. She was here. She was... The front door burst open below. Mia couldn't see the entrance from this angle, but she could hear everything. Footsteps. Commands being shouted. And then Victor's voice, strained in a way she hadn't heard before. Get Dr. Chen up here now. And someone find Grace. I want Isabella in her room with a hot bath running in 5 minutes. Dad, I'm fine. You're not fine. You're in shock and you probably have hypothermia. Don't argue with me. Mia heard Isabella laugh, though it sounded shaky. Still bossy even during a rescue. Especially during a rescue. Victor's voice softened just slightly. Come on, let's get you upstairs. Mia backed away from the window, unsure what to do. Should she go down? Stay up here? Was it appropriate to intrude on their reunion? The decision was made for her when Grace appeared in the library doorway. Miss Isabella is asking for you. For me? Why? Because she wants to thank the person who called for help. Grace gestured for Mia to follow. Come on, her father won't let her stay up for long. They went down the hallway to a different wing of the house. Grace knocked on a door before opening it, revealing a bedroom even larger than the one Mia had slept in. Isabella sat on the edge of an enormous bed, wrapped in blankets despite the room being warm. A doctor was checking her blood pressure while Victor stood nearby, his arms crossed, watching everything with hawk-like intensity. Isabella looked up when Mia entered, and her face broke into a tired smile. You're the one who found my wallet. Mia nodded, suddenly shy again. Up close, Isabella was beautiful even after whatever ordeal she'd been through. Dark hair tangled around her face, bruises forming on her wrists where she'd been restrained, but her eyes were bright and alive. I'm sorry, Mia blurted out. I mean, not sorry. I'm glad you're okay. I didn't know what else to do, so I called the number, and you saved my life. Isabella's voice was quiet but certain. Those men were going to kill me once they got what they wanted from my father. The only reason I'm here is because you were brave enough to get involved. I wasn't brave. I was terrified. Brave people are usually terrified. Isabella glanced at her father. Right, Dad? Victor's expression was unreadable. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. His eyes met Mia's. You did that last night. Not many people would have. The doctor finished his examination and stood. She's dehydrated and exhausted, but nothing that rest in fluids won't fix. The bruising will heal. No signs of serious trauma. Thank you, Dr. Chen. Victor turned back to his daughter. You heard him. Rest. I'm not 5 years old anymore. No, you're 23 and you just spent the night tied to a chair in a warehouse. Rest anyway. Isabella rolled her eyes, but Mia could see the exhaustion pulling at her. Fine, but I want to talk to Mia first, alone. Victor looked like he wanted to argue, but something in his daughter's expression stopped him. 5 minutes. Then you sleep. He gestured to the doctor and Grace, and all three of them filed out, leaving Mia alone with Isabella. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Isabella patted the bed next to her. "Sit, please. I don't bite." Mia sat, keeping a careful distance. "Are you really okay?" "Define okay." Isabella pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "Physically, yes. Mentally, I'm going to be processing this for a while. But I'm alive, which is more than I expected 6 hours ago." "What happened?" "I mean, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. It's fine. I was leaving a charity event downtown. My security detail was delayed. Traffic accident, we thought. Though Dad's people think now it was staged. I was waiting by the bank entrance when a van pulled up. 2 men got out, grabbed me before I could even scream properly. They were professionals, fast, efficient, knew exactly what they were doing." "Igietzis Tonske." She paused, her hands twisting in the blanket. "They kept me in that warehouse, asking questions about my father's business, who he worked with, what properties he owned, details about his security. I didn't tell them anything useful." "Mi posamto." "They hurt you?" Mia asked quietly. "They scared me. That was enough." Isabella's voice hardened. "But they made a mistake. They underestimated my father, thought they'd have more time before he found them. Instead, his team hit that place like a military operation. It was over in maybe 3 minutes. The men who took me didn't even get their weapons up before they were on the ground." Mia thought about Victor's cold fury in the operations room. "He was really worried about you." "I know. He tries to hide it, but I can always tell." Isabella looked at her carefully. "He brought you here, to his home. That's not something he does lightly. He said I was in danger, that the kidnappers might come after me. He's probably right. These people don't leave loose ends." She reached out and touched Mia's hand. "Thank you, really. You could have walked away. Most people would have." "I kept thinking about how you were fighting, even scared. You didn't just give up." "No, I didn't." Isabella's smile was sad. "My father taught me that. Never give up, even when you're terrified. Especially when you're terrified." A knock on the door interrupted them. Victor stepped back in, his expression making it clear the 5 minutes were up. "Isabella, sleep, now." "So bossy," Isabella muttered, but she was already lying down, her eyes half closed. The adrenaline that had been keeping her upright was clearly wearing off. Victor gestured for Mia to follow him out. In the hallway, he closed the door quietly behind them. "She'll be fine," he said, more to himself than to Mia. "She's strong. Stronger than she should have to be. She said your team got her out in 3 minutes. 2 minutes 40 seconds, actually. Would have been faster, but they'd rigged the main entrance with an alarm we had to bypass." He started walking, and Mia fell into step beside him. "The men who took her are in custody now. My people are questioning them." Something in his tone made Mia's skin prickle. "Questioning them how?" Victor stopped walking and looked at her directly. "However necessary to get answers. This wasn't a random kidnapping, Mia. Someone planned this. Someone with knowledge of my security protocols, my daughter's schedule, my business operations. Those men in the warehouse were hired muscle. I need to know who hired them. And then what? Then I deal with it." His voice was flat, final. "This is my world, Mia. People don't threaten my family and walk away unscathed. They especially don't threaten my daughter." Mia wanted to ask what "deal with it" meant, but she was afraid of the answer. Instead, she asked, "Can I go home now? Isabella's safe. I helped all I could. I should get back to my life." "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because whoever ordered this doesn't know we found Isabella yet. They don't know their men failed, which means they still think their plan is working. And if they think you're a loose end, which they do, they might still try to eliminate you." He resumed walking, heading toward what Mia now recognized as the operations room. "You stay here until I'm certain the threat is neutralized." "How long will that take?" "As long as it takes." They reached the operations room. Inside, the screen still showed live feeds, but now there were faces displayed on several monitors. The 2 men who'd taken Isabella, photographed from multiple angles. Their images were being run through facial recognition software, cross-referenced with criminal databases. One of Victor's men looked up from a computer. "We've got IDs, Marcus Chen and David Russo, both with prior records, assault, robbery, enforcement work for various organizations. Chen's got the tattoo you described, Miss Harper. Dragon symbol. Known association with the triad operations in Chinatown. Victor moved to the screen, studying the faces. Who hired them? Still working on it. They're not talking yet. Make them talk. Victor's voice was ice. I want names. I want who gave the order, who provided the intelligence, who knew my daughter would be at that location at that time, and I want it before the end of the day. Yes, sir. Mia stood in the doorway, watching this unfold, feeling more and more like she'd stepped into something far darker than she'd imagined. This wasn't just a businessman with security concerns. This was something else. Something that operated in shadows and asked questions in ways she didn't want to think about. Victor must have sensed her discomfort because he turned. You should eat something. Grace will bring lunch to your room. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You're going to need your strength. For what? He hesitated, something flickering across his face. There may be more questions, more details we need from you. The men who took Isabella weren't working alone. There's a larger organization behind this, and your description of them might help us identify other operatives. I told you everything I remember. I know, but sometimes memory works in layers. Something might come back to you. A detail you overlooked. A face in the crowd before the kidnapping happened. Anything that seemed ordinary at the time, but in context might be significant. Mia wrapped her arms around herself. You're asking me to stay here indefinitely, in a house full of armed guards, while you interrogate criminals and hunt down whoever tried to hurt your daughter. Do you understand how insane that sounds to someone like me? Someone like you? Someone normal, someone who goes to classes and worries about grades and has never been anywhere near violence or danger or whatever this is. She gestured at the operations room, at the screens full of surveillance feeds and criminal profiles. This isn't my world, Mr. Hale. I don't belong here. And yet, here you are. His voice was quieter now. Because you made a choice last night. You could have walked away. You chose not to. That choice brought you into this world whether you like it or not. I just wanted to help. You did help. You saved my daughter's life. But that action had consequences. The people who took Isabella know someone called that number. They know someone witnessed the kidnapping. They may not know your name yet, but they will. These organizations have resources. They'll check traffic cameras, pull phone records, bribe the right people. It's only a matter of time. He stepped closer, his expression serious. I'm not keeping you here to punish you, Mia. I'm keeping you here to keep you alive. The weight of that settled over her like a physical thing. She thought about her apartment, her roommate, her classes, her safe, boring, predictable life that suddenly felt very far away. How do I know you're telling the truth? She asked quietly. How do I know you're not just keeping me here for your own reasons? You don't. Victor's honesty was startling. You have to decide whether to trust me or not. But ask yourself this. If I wanted to hold you against your will, would I be explaining myself? Would I have my staff treating you like a guest instead of a prisoner? Would I let you wander the house freely? He had a point. Mia hated that he had a point. I need to call my parents, she said. They'll be worried. What's their number? She gave it to him, and he made the call right there, putting it on speaker. Her mother answered on the third ring. Hello? Mrs. Harper, this is Victor Hale. Your daughter Mia is with me. There was a pause. I'm sorry. Who? Victor Hale. Mia witnessed an incident last night and helped my family with an urgent matter. She's safe and being well cared for, but she'll need to stay with us for a few more days until the situation is resolved. What situation? What incident? Put Mia on the phone right now. Victor handed the phone to Mia. She took it with shaking hands. Mom? Mia. What's going on? Who is this man? Are you okay? I'm fine. I saw something. Someone getting hurt, and I called for help. Mr. Hale is the father of the woman who is hurt, and he thinks I might still be in danger from the people who hurt her, so I'm staying at his house where it's safe. The lie, or partial truth, came easier than she expected. Danger? Mia, what are you talking about? Come home right now. I can't. Not yet. It's complicated. Then we're coming there. No! Mia's voice came out sharper than she intended. The last thing she needed was her parents showing up at Victor Hale's compound and seeing the armed guards and surveillance systems. Please, Mom, I'm safe. I'm being taken care of. I just need a few days and then I'll explain everything. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then, reluctantly, You're sure you're safe? I'm sure. Call me every day, morning and night. And if anything feels wrong, you leave immediately. Do you understand? I understand. I love you, honey. Love you too, Mom. She handed the phone back to Victor, who ended the call. He looked at her with something that might have been respect. That was well handled. I lied to my mother. You protected her from worry. There's a difference. He tucked the phone back into his pocket. Go eat. Rest. Tomorrow we'll need to go over everything again with fresh eyes. Mia wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was catching up with her again. She nodded and left the operations room, making her way back to the guest room that was starting to feel less like a luxury and more like a gilded cage. Grace had indeed brought lunch, a sandwich and salad that looked homemade. Mia ate mechanically, not really tasting anything. Then she lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. She'd witnessed a kidnapping, called a mysterious number, been swept into the world of a man who commanded private armies and interrogated criminals, met his daughter, who'd survived her ordeal with a strength Mia couldn't imagine having. And now she was trapped here, protected and imprisoned at the same time, while Victor Hale hunted down the people who'd threatened his family. She thought about what he'd said, that she'd made a choice, that the choice had consequences. He was right. She had chosen to get involved, but she hadn't understood what that choice would mean, hadn't realized it would pull her out of her safe, quiet life and drop her into the middle of something dangerous and complex. Part of her wished she'd walked away, wished she'd never picked up that wallet, never called that number. She'd be safe in her apartment right now, worrying about normal things like homework and whether she'd have enough money for groceries this week. But another part of her, a part she didn't quite recognize, was glad she'd made the call. Isabella was alive because of it. A young woman who'd been fighting for her life was safe with her father now because Mia had been brave for 60 seconds. Maybe that was worth being scared for a few more days. She must have fallen asleep again because she woke to darkness and the sound of raised voices somewhere in the house. Mia sat up, her heart racing, listening. The voices were coming from downstairs. One of them was Victor's, sharp with anger. She shouldn't eavesdrop. She should stay in her room and mind her own business. But her feet were already carrying her to the door, into the hallway, toward the stairs. The voices were coming from Victor's study, a room she'd passed but never entered. The door was partially open, light spilling into the dark corridor. Mom, don't care about the politics of it, Marcus. Someone from inside my organization gave them information. Someone I trusted. Victor's voice was deadly quiet. I want to know who. We're working on it. This voice was unfamiliar. But these things take time. We can't just... Time is something we don't have. Whoever betrayed me is still out there, still has access to information about my operations, my family, my security protocols. Every day they walk free is another day they can do more damage. What do you want us to do? Check everyone. And I mean everyone. Phone records, bank accounts, recent contacts. Someone got paid for this. Someone wanted my daughter hurt. I want them found. Mia pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding. A betrayal from inside. Someone Victor trusted had given the kidnappers information. That's why they'd known where Isabella would be when she'd be vulnerable. What about the girl? The unfamiliar voice asked. The witness. How long are you planning to keep her here? As long as necessary. She's a liability, Victor, a civilian who's seen too much. If she talks to the wrong people, she won't. How can you be sure? Because I'll make sure. There was a pause. Mia Harper is under my protection. Anyone who tries to hurt her answers to me. Make sure that message gets out to anyone who might be listening. Mia's breath caught. He was protecting her, really protecting her, not just from the kidnappers, but from his own people who saw her as a problem. You're getting attached, the other man said quietly. That's dangerous. I'm not attached. I'm responsible. There's a difference. Victor's voice hardened. Now find me the traitor before I start assuming it's you. Yes, sir. Footsteps approached the door. Mia turned and ran as quietly as she could back to her room, closing the door just as she heard Victor's study open fully. She stood with her back against the door, breathing hard, her mind racing. A traitor in Victor's organization, someone close enough to know Isabella's schedule. Someone who'd sold out Victor's daughter for money or revenge or whatever motivated betrayal. And Victor was hunting them while simultaneously trying to keep Mia safe from people who wanted her dead. She climbed back into bed but didn't sleep. Instead, she lay there in the darkness, listening to the house settle around her, and wondered what she'd really gotten herself into. The next morning came too early. Grace knocked on her door at 7 with breakfast and a message. Mister, Hale wants to see you in the operations room when you're ready. Mia ate quickly, dressed, and made her way downstairs. The operations room was busier than yesterday, with at least 15 people working at various stations. Victor stood at the main table, studying something on a tablet. He looked up when she entered. Mia, good. Come here. She approached cautiously. On the tablet was a photograph of a man in his 50s, distinguished looking, wearing an expensive suit. Do you recognize him? Victor asked. Mia studied the photo. No, should I? He was at the bank the night Isabella was taken. Security footage shows him standing near the entrance about 10 minutes before the kidnapping. He left just before it happened. Okay, but I don't know him. His name is Richard Chen. He's one of my business partners, or he was. Victor's jaw tightened. My team found evidence that he's been funneling information to a rival organization for the past 6 months. He knew Isabella would be at that charity event. He knew when her security would be delayed. He arranged the whole thing. Mia felt cold. Your own partner betrayed you? Money makes people do terrible things. Richard was in debt, gambling problems. The people he owed found a way to use him. Victor set down the tablet. We picked him up this morning. He's in custody now. What are you going to do with him? That depends on how cooperative he is. Victor's expression was unreadable. But this changes things for you. Richard knows I have a witness. He told the people who hired him, which means they know too. They'll be coming for you, Mia. Not today, probably not tomorrow, but they will come. The room felt suddenly too small. So what do I do? Stay here forever? No, we end this. He turned to face her fully. I'm going after the organization that ordered the hit on my daughter. The people Richard sold information to. Once they're neutralized, you'll be safe. How long will that take? I don't know. Days, maybe weeks. He paused. I know this isn't what you signed up for, but you're involved now, whether you want to be or not. The question is whether you trust me to keep you safe while I handle this. Mia looked at him, this man who'd swept into her life like a storm, who commanded loyalty and fear in equal measure, who'd mobilized an army to save his daughter, and was now hunting traitors with cold precision. Everything about him screamed danger. Everything about the situation told her to run. But Isabella was alive because Mia had trusted her instincts once before. I trust you, she said quietly. Something shifted in Victor's expression. Then stay close. Do what my people tell you. And if something feels wrong, anything, you tell me immediately. Understood? Understood. He nodded, then turned back to his team. Marcus, I want full surveillance on anyone Richard had contact with in the last month. James, pull the records from his company accounts. Sarah, check his communications, emails, texts, everything. Someone else knows what he knows. I want them found before they can run. The people in the room sprang into action. Mia stood there, watching this machine of power and violence work with ruthless efficiency, and realized she wasn't just a witness anymore. She was part of this now, part of Victor Hale's world. And there was no going back. The next 3 days blurred together in a strange rhythm that Mia never quite got used to. Wake up, eat breakfast that Grace brought. Spend hours in the operations room watching Victor's team track down leads, answer the same questions over and over, hoping some new detail would surface from her memory. Eat lunch, watch more surveillance footage, eat dinner, try to sleep while the house hummed with activity below. Isabella recovered quickly, much faster than the doctor had predicted. By the third day, she was up and moving around, refusing to stay in bed despite her father's protests. Mia found her in the library on Wednesday afternoon, curled up in one of the leather chairs with a book she wasn't really reading. "Mind if I sit?" Mia asked from the doorway. Isabella looked up and smiled. "Please, I'm going crazy being alone with my thoughts." Mia took the chair across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Isabella set her book aside. "Dad's being impossible," she said. "Won't let me leave the house. Won't let me out of his sight for more than an hour. I know he's worried, but I feel like I'm in prison." "At least you're safe." Safe and suffocating are apparently the same thing in his mind. Isabella pulled her knees up to her chest. "How are you holding up? This can't be easy for you either." "I'm okay, I guess. It's just weird. My whole life got put on pause because I picked up a wallet. You did more than that. You gave my father hope when he had none. You gave him a direction to move in." Isabella's voice was quiet. "Do you know what he's like when he feels helpless? I do. I've seen it twice. Once when my mother died, and once 2 nights ago when he thought he might lose me too. It's terrifying." Mia hadn't known Victor's wife was dead. No one had mentioned it. "I'm sorry. About your mother. It was 8 years ago. Cancer. She fought hard, but..." Isabella trailed off, her eyes distant. "Dad threw himself into work afterward. Built his empire bigger, made more money, accumulated more power. I think he believed if he was strong enough, wealthy enough, protected enough, he could keep bad things from happening again. Clearly that didn't work out. He seems pretty strong to me." "Oh, he is. But strength doesn't stop grief. It doesn't stop fear." Isabella looked at Mia directly. "He likes you, you know. I can tell." Mia felt her face heat. "He barely knows me. He knows you were brave when it mattered. That's enough for him. Dad doesn't trust easily, but when he does, it's absolute." She paused. "Just be careful. His world isn't kind to people who aren't built for it." "I'm starting to figure that out." The door opened and Victor walked in, his expression serious. "Isabella, Dr. Chen wants to check your vitals again. And Mia, I need you in the operations room. We've got something." Isabella rolled her eyes but stood up. "See? Impossible." Victor ignored her, his attention already on Mia. "Now, please." Mia followed him down the hallway, her stomach twisting. His tone suggested whatever they'd found wasn't good. The operations room was crowded when they entered, the main screen showing what looked like architectural blueprints. "What is it?" Mia asked. Marcus, the man in military fatigues who seemed to be Victor's second-in-command, pointed to the screen. "We tracked Richard Chen's communications to a man named Vincent Zhao. He runs an import-export business that's a front for illegal operations. Weapons, drugs, human trafficking. He's been trying to muscle into Victor's territory for years. And Richard gave him the opening he needed," Victor said, his voice cold. "He thought taking Isabella would force me to negotiate. Give up some of my holdings in exchange for her safe return. But you got her back before they could make demands," Mia said. "Exactly, which means Vincent is now in a difficult position. He's shown his hand but gained nothing, and he knows I'm coming for him." Victor crossed his arms. "The question is what he'll do next. Cut his losses and run, or double down and try to finish what he started." Marcus pulled up another image on the screen. A photograph of a man in his 40s, expensive suit, cold eyes. "This is Vincent Zhao. Our intel suggests he's planning something. His people have been moving equipment into a facility across town. We're not sure what for yet." Mia stared at the photograph. Vincent Zhao didn't look like a criminal. He looked like a businessman, someone who could blend into any corporate environment. But those eyes, there was something dead about them. "What kind of equipment?" Victor asked. "Electronics. Communications gear. Could be setting up a new base of operations. Could be planning a countermove." Marcus hesitated. "There's something else. We've been monitoring chatter. Vincent knows about the witness. He knows someone saw his men take Isabella. He's offering money for information about who that person is." The room went very quiet. Mia felt everyone's eyes shift to her. "How much money?" Victor asked calmly. 50,000 for a name, 100,000 for a location. Mia's legs felt weak. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. That's a lot of money. It is, Victor agreed, which means you don't leave this property under any circumstances. Marcus, double the perimeter security. I want eyes on every approach. If anyone we don't recognize comes within a mile of this place, I want to know about it. Already done, sir. Victor turned to Mia. You're safe here. I promise you that. But you need to understand what we're dealing with. Vincent Zhao is not a man who accepts defeat. He will try to tie up loose ends. You are a loose end. So what do we do? Mia asked, hating how small her voice sounded. We end this before he can move. Victor's jaw tightened. I'm going after him, tonight. The room erupted in protest. Marcus stepped forward. Sir, that's exactly what he's expecting. He'll be ready for you. It could be a trap. I don't care. Victor, think about this. I have thought about it. Victor's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Every hour Vincent Zhao walks free is another hour he can plan. Another hour he can position his people. Another hour Mia is in danger. We move tonight, full force. We hit his facility, we take him alive if possible, and we end this. And if it is a trap? Mia heard herself ask. Victor looked at her, his expression softening just slightly. Then we spring it and deal with the consequences. But sitting here waiting for him to make the first move isn't an option. Not anymore. Marcus sighed but nodded. I'll assemble the team. Same loadout as the warehouse raid? Heavier. Vincent's people are better trained than the idiots who took Isabella. I want full tactical gear, body armor, the works, and I want snipers on the surrounding buildings before we go in. As the team started moving, coordinating logistics and checking weapons, Mia stood frozen. This was really happening. Victor was planning a military-style assault on a criminal facility because of her, because she'd witnessed something she shouldn't have seen. I should help, she said suddenly. Everyone stopped and turned to stare at her. Victor's expression was unreadable. Help how? He asked carefully. I don't know. There has to be something I can do. I can't just sit here while you risk your life because of me. You're a civilian, Mia. You're not trained for this. I know that, but... She struggled to find the words. You said memory works in layers, right? What if I went with you? What if seeing Vincent's facility triggered something? Some detail about the men who took Isabella that could help? Absolutely not, Victor said flatly. Why not? Because putting you in the line of fire defeats the entire purpose of keeping you safe. I'm already in the line of fire. Mia's voice rose, surprising herself. You said it yourself. Vincent is looking for me. He's offering money for my location. Sitting in this house doesn't make me safe. It just makes me a sitting target. She has a point, Isabella said from the doorway. Everyone turned to look at her. She walked into the room, her movement still a bit stiff, but her expression determined. If Vincent's people find this place, Mia won't have anywhere to run. But if she's with you, with your team, she's got the best protection possible. Stay out of this, Isabella. No. Isabella crossed her arms, looking remarkably like her father in that moment. I'm the one who got kidnapped, remember? I think I have a say in how we handle the people who did it. Victor's expression was somewhere between frustration and grudging respect. You're supposed to be resting. I'm rested, and I'm not helpless. She turned to Mia. You really want to do this? Go with them? Mia's heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. But she nodded. I can't keep hiding. I need to do something. Then you should go, Isabella said firmly. Dad, let her help. This isn't a democracy. Well, Victor growled. No, it's your operation, which means it's your call. Isabella met his eyes. But you taught me that sometimes the brave choice is the one that feels most dangerous. Mia wants to be brave. Let her. The silence stretched out. Victor looked at Mia, really looked at her, and she forced herself to hold his gaze even though every instinct told her to look away. Finally, he spoke. If you come with us, you follow orders. No questions, no hesitation. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide. If I tell you to stay in the vehicle no matter what happens, you stay in the vehicle. Understood? Understood. You'll wear body armor. You'll stay with Marcus at all times. And if things go wrong, and they might, you do exactly what he tells you to keep yourself alive. Mia nodded, not trusting her voice. Victor turned to Marcus. Get her fitted for armor, and brief her on basic tactical protocols. She moves with us in 90 minutes. As Marcus led her away to the armory, Mia caught Isabella's eye. The other woman gave her a small nod of approval. Then the moment was gone, and Mia was being shown how to put on a bulletproof vest that weighed more than she expected. This is insane, she muttered as Marcus adjusted the straps. Completely, he agreed. But Victor's right about one thing. You've got courage. Most people would have run screaming by now. I still might. Marcus smiled grimly. If you do, run toward us, not away. We're the ones who'll keep you alive. The next hour passed in a blur of preparation. Mia watched Victor's team check weapons, review blueprints, coordinate with overwatch positions. She'd never seen anything like it. These people moved with the precision of a military unit, but they weren't soldiers. They were private security, loyal to Victor and no one else. Victor himself was transformed. Gone was the businessman in the expensive suit. He wore tactical gear like everyone else, a weapon holstered at his hip, a radio earpiece connecting him to his team. He looked dangerous in a way that made Mia's breath catch. 5 minutes, he called out. Final check. The team moved to their assigned vehicles. Mia climbed into the second SUV with Marcus and 3 other men whose names she'd already forgotten. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to sit on them. Marcus noticed. First time in a combat situation? Is it that obvious? You're doing fine. Just remember, stay close, stay quiet, and do what you're told. We'll handle the rest. Bamti. Bashi. The convoy pulled out of the estate exactly on schedule. 4 vehicles moving through the city streets with the same aggressive confidence as before. But this time Mia knew what was coming. They weren't just driving somewhere. They were going to war. The facility Vincent Zhao used was in an industrial area near the docks, surrounded by warehouses and shipping containers. As they approached, Victor's voice came through the radio. Overwatch in position? Affirmative. We have eyes on all exits. No unusual movement so far. Good. Team 1, you're on the south entrance. Team 2, north. Team 3, you're with me on the main door. Remember, we want Vincent alive if possible. Everyone else is expendable. Mia's stomach churned. Expendable. He said it so casually, like he was talking about inventory instead of human lives. The vehicles stopped 2 blocks from the target. The team disembarked in coordinated silence. Mia stayed glued to Marcus's side as they moved through the shadows between buildings, approaching the facility from the north. The building was 3 stories, concrete and steel, with few windows. Security lights illuminated the perimeter. Mia could see at least 2 guards outside the main entrance, both armed. Overwatch, what's our count? Victor's voice was barely a whisper through the radio. 6 guards outside, unknown number inside. Heat signatures suggest at least 15 people in the building, possibly more in the basement levels. Copy that, moving into position. Mia watched as Victor's team spread out, moving with practiced ease. She'd never seen anything like it. They were like ghosts, barely disturbing the air as they moved. Then everything happened at once. Victor's hand signal sent Team 1 through the south entrance. The sound of doors being breached echoed through the night. Shouts erupted from inside the building. Then gunfire. Marcus grabbed Mia's arm and pulled her behind a shipping container. Stay down. Don't move unless I tell you to. More gunfire. The sharp crack of rifles, the deeper boom of shotguns. Someone was screaming. The radio crackled with reports. Team 1 engaged, 3 hostiles down, moving to second floor. Team 2 breaching now, heavy resistance. Mia pressed herself against the cold metal of the container, her heart hammering so hard it hurt. This was real. People were shooting at each other. People were dying. And then she heard Victor's voice, sharp and commanding. Target acquired. Second floor, northeast corner. Moving to apprehend. More gunfire. An explosion that shook the ground. Mia flinched, biting back a scream. Mia? Marcus's voice was urgent. We need to move. They're pushing hostiles out the north exit. We need to relocate. He pulled her up and they ran, staying low, moving to a new position behind a concrete barrier. From here, Mia could see the north entrance. Men were pouring out, armed and desperate, firing back at whoever was pursuing them. One of them looked familiar. Mia's breath caught. Marcus, that man, the one in the dark jacket. What about him? I've seen him before. The night of the kidnapping. He was across the street. I thought he was just waiting for the bus, but her memory was clicking pieces together. He was watching. He was the lookout. Marcus was already on the radio. Suspect identified, north exit, dark jacket, armed. Possible lookout from the original kidnapping. Copy that. Taking him alive. Victor's voice was ice. 3 of Victor's men moved on the target with surgical precision. The man in the dark jacket tried to run, got maybe 10 feet before he was tackled to the ground. His weapon skittered across the pavement. More gunfire from inside the building. Then, abruptly, silence. Building secure, came the report. Target in custody, 12 hostiles down, 4 surrendered, 3 escaped out the east side. Overwatch, do you have eyes on the runners? Negative, they made it to the warehouse district. Lost them in the containers. Victor's voice cut through the chatter. Let them go. We have what we came for. Bring Vincent to the secondary location. Everyone else, clean up and fall back. Marcus stood, offering Mia his hand. She took it, her legs shaking so badly she wasn't sure they'd support her weight. Around them, Victor's team was moving through the aftermath with clinical efficiency, collecting weapons, checking bodies, securing prisoners. It was over in less than 15 minutes from start to finish. Victor emerged from the building, his tactical gear splattered with something Mia didn't want to identify. 2 of his men were dragging a figure between them. Vincent Zhao, his expensive suit torn, his face bloodied, his hands zip-tied behind his back. Victor saw Mia and walked over. You okay? She nodded, not trusting her voice. Good. You did well. That identification helps. He turned to Marcus. Get her back to the house. I'll deal with Vincent. Wait, Mia said. What are you going to do to him? Victor's expression was unreadable. I'm going to ask him questions, and he's going to answer them. And if he doesn't, he will. The certainty in Victor's voice made Mia's skin crawl. Go with Marcus. I'll see you back at the house. He walked away before she could respond, barking orders to his team. Mia watched him go, watched Vincent Zhao being shoved into a black van, watched the whole operation wrap up like it was routine. And maybe for these people, it was. Marcus guided her back to the SUV. The drive back to the estate was quiet. Mia stared out the window, her mind trying to process what she'd just witnessed. The violence, the efficiency, the casual way Victor had ordered his team to take lives. This was his world. This was what he meant when he said he had resources. Back at the house, Grace was waiting with hot tea and worried eyes. Mr. Hale radioed ahead. He said you did well. I just stood there and shook. You identified a suspect. That's more than standing there. Grace handed her the tea. Drink this. Go shower. Try to rest. Mr. Hale will brief you when he returns. Mia did as she was told, moving through the motions automatically. The shower ran hot enough to turn her skin red, but she couldn't get warm. She kept seeing the gunfire, hearing the screams, watching men fall. She was sitting on her bed, still wrapped in a towel, when someone knocked. Isabella poked her head in. Can I come in? Mia nodded. Isabella sat beside her on the bed. Dad called. He told me what happened, that you identified one of the kidnappers. I didn't do anything. I just remembered seeing him. That's not nothing, Mia. That's huge. Isabella was quiet for a moment. How do you feel? I don't know. Scared? Confused? I watched people die tonight. I know. I'm sorry you had to see that. Is it always like this, in your world? Isabella sighed. Not always, but often enough. My father operates in spaces where normal rules don't apply, where power and money create their own kind of law. I grew up watching him navigate that world, watching him do things that would horrify most people. She looked at Mia. But he's not a monster. He's just a man trying to protect what he loves using the only methods he knows. Does that make it okay? I don't know. That's not for me to say. Isabella stood up. But I know he'll keep you safe, whatever it takes. That's who he is. After Isabella left, Mia got dressed and tried to sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw the building, the gunfire, Vincent Zhao's bloodied face. She was still awake when she heard the vehicles return hours later. Footsteps in the hallway. Victor's voice giving quiet orders. Then a knock on her door. "Come in," she called. Victor entered, looking exhausted. He'd changed out of his tactical gear into clean clothes, but there was a bandage on his left arm that hadn't been there before. "You're hurt," Mia said. "It's nothing, grazed from a ricochet." He sat in the chair by the window. "I wanted to update you." Vincent talked, extensively. What did he say? He confirmed that Richard Chen sold him information about Isabella's schedule and security protocols. He admitted to ordering the kidnapping, and he gave us names, everyone in his organization who was involved in planning or executing the operation. Including the lookout I identified? Yes. His name is Tommy Liu. He's been working for Vincent for 3 years. He was the one who scoped out the location and confirmed Isabella was there before signaling the extraction team. Victor's expression darkened. He's also been tracking you. Mia's blood ran cold. What? Vincent put him on your trail after the kidnapping failed. He's been following you for the last week. He knows where you live, where you go to school, your patterns. He was planning to grab you tonight while we were hitting Vincent's facility. But you stopped him. We did. He's in custody now, along with Vincent and the rest of his people who survived. Victor leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. It's over, Mia. The threat to you is neutralized. Vincent's organization is dismantled. You're safe. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt hollow. What happens to them? Vincent and his people? That's not your concern. It is my concern. People died tonight because of me. People died tonight because they made the choice to work for a criminal who orders kidnappings and murders. Victor's voice was firm. You didn't pull the trigger, Mia. You didn't choose violence. You just chose not to look away when someone needed help. There's a difference. Is there? She wrapped her arms around herself. I feel responsible. Then you're giving yourself too much credit. Victor stood up. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss getting you back to your normal life. You've earned it. He was almost to the door when Mia spoke again. Thank you for keeping me safe. Victor paused, looking back at her. Something flickered across his face, something almost vulnerable. You're welcome. Then he was gone, and Mia was alone with her thoughts once more. But this time sleep came easier, because it was over. The nightmare that had started with a scream in the rain was finally finished, or so she thought. Mia woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and the sound of birds outside. For the first time in days, she'd slept without nightmares. She lay there for a moment, letting the quiet settle over her, before the previous night came rushing back. The raid, the gunfire, Vincent Zhao's bloodied face, Victor's assurance that it was over. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Grace entered with breakfast and a gentle smile. Mr. Hale would like to see you in his study when you're ready. No rush. Mia ate slowly, her mind turning over what Victor had said about getting her back to her normal life. She should be relieved. She should be counting the hours until she could leave this place and pretend none of this had happened. But something felt unfinished, unsettled. She dressed and made her way to Victor's study, a room she'd passed but never entered. She knocked, heard his voice telling her to come in, and pushed open the heavy wooden door. The study was lined with bookshelves, a massive desk dominating one end. Victor sat behind it, papers spread in front of him, looking every bit the businessman rather than the tactical commander from last night. He glanced up when she entered. Mia, sit. She took one of the leather chairs across from his desk. He set down his pen and leaned back, studying her. How are you feeling? Honestly, I'm not sure. She twisted her hands in her lap. You said it's over, that I'm safe now, but it doesn't feel over. What does it feel like? She struggled to find the words. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like something's still wrong, but I can't see what it is. Victor's expression shifted slightly. You have good instincts. There is something I need to tell you. Mia's stomach dropped. I thought you said the threat was neutralized. It is. Vincent's organization is dismantled. His people are in custody or scattered. You're safe from them. He paused, his fingers drumming once on the desk. But interrogating Vincent revealed something else, something I didn't expect. What? Vincent wasn't working alone. He had a partner, someone with resources and connections that rival my own, someone who wanted my daughter hurt not just for money or territory, but for revenge. Victor's jaw tightened. And that person is still out there. The room felt suddenly cold. Who? I don't know yet. Vincent claims he never met them directly. All communication went through intermediaries. But whoever they are, they funded the entire operation. They're the one who approached Richard Chen. They're the one who orchestrated everything. Mia's hands were shaking again. So it's not over. Not completely. Victor stood and walked to the window, his back to her. But you're still safe. This person isn't targeting you specifically. They're targeting me through the people I care about. As long as you're under my protection, they won't risk moving against you. As long as I'm under your protection, Mia repeated. What happens when I leave? Victor turned to face her. That's what I wanted to discuss. I think you should stay here for a while longer, until we identify and neutralize this new threat. How long is a while? I don't know. Days, weeks, however long it takes. Mia stood up, her frustration finally boiling over. You can't keep me here indefinitely. I have a life. I have school and friends and a family who's worried about me. I can't just disappear into your compound and wait for you to solve all your problems. I'm not asking you to disappear. I'm asking you to stay alive. By hiding? By letting you fight my battles for me? They're not your battles, Mia. They're mine. You just got caught in the crossfire. His voice softened slightly. I'm trying to protect you. I know, and I'm grateful, but I can't live like this. Looking over my shoulder, wondering when it's safe, waiting for you to tell me I can have my life back. She wrapped her arms around herself. I need to feel like I have some control. Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked back to his desk and pulled out a folder. There might be another option. What kind of option? He opened the folder, revealing photographs and documents. The person funding Vincent's operation made one mistake. They used a shell company to transfer money. We traced it back to a law firm downtown that specializes in creating anonymous corporate structures. Someone at that firm knows who Vincent's partner is. And you want to find out who? Yes, but it's delicate. We can't just storm a law firm like we did Vincent's facility. This requires a different approach. Something subtle. He looked at her carefully. Something that might benefit from having someone involved who doesn't look like a threat. Mia's heart started pounding. You want me to help. I want to give you the choice. You could stay here, safe, but passive. Or you could help us get the information we need, actively participate in ending this. How would I help? I'm not a spy. I'm not trained for anything like this. You don't need to be. We just need someone to get inside the building, plant a device that will let us access their computer systems remotely. The firm offers free consultations for estate planning. You'd book an appointment, go in as a potential client, and our tech team would walk you through the rest. That's insane. It's risky, Victor acknowledged, but it's also the fastest way to identify the person who's still threatening you. Once we know who they are, we can deal with them, and then you really will be safe. Mia paced the length of the study, her mind racing. This was crazy. Everything about this was crazy. But Victor was right about one thing. She was tired of feeling helpless. Tired of being protected like a porcelain doll that might shatter at any moment. If I do this, she said slowly, I want your word that you'll actually let me go when it's over. That you won't find another reason to keep me here. You have my word. And if something goes wrong, if they figure out what I'm doing, then my people will get you out. I'll be monitoring the entire time. You won't be alone. She stopped pacing and looked at him. Why me? You must have people on your team who could do this. I do. But law firms run background checks on potential clients. Anyone connected to me would raise flags. You're clean. You have no criminal record, no ties to my organization. You're exactly what you appear to be, a college student looking into estate planning. Perfect cover. Or it's a disaster waiting to happen. That's possible too. Victor's honesty was jarring. I won't lie to you, Mia. This could go wrong, but I think the risk is manageable, and I think you're capable of handling it. You don't know that. Yes, I do. You've proven it every day since you picked up that wallet. You're stronger than you think. Mia wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong about her, but part of her, the part that had made the call that night, the part that had insisted on going to the raid, that part was saying yes before her rational mind could object. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll do it." Victor's expression shifted, something like relief crossing his face. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I might mess this up completely." "You won't." He pressed a button on his desk phone. "Marcus, bring the tech team to the study. We're moving forward with the law firm operation." The next 2 hours were a crash course in corporate espionage that made Mia's head spin. Marcus introduced her to a woman named Sarah Chen, no relation to Richard, apparently, who headed Victor's technical operations. Sarah was in her 30s, sharp-eyed and efficient, with the kind of focused intensity that reminded Mia of Victor himself. "The device is simple," Sarah explained, holding up something that looked like a USB drive. "You plug it into any computer in the firm. It takes about 30 seconds to install the software. Once it's in, we have access to their entire network." "What if they see me do it?" "That's why you'll book a consultation in the afternoon. Most of the staff will be at lunch or in meetings. We've been monitoring their schedules. There's a 15-minute window where the office should be mostly empty, except for your appointment." "Mostly empty," Mia repeated. "That's not very reassuring." "Nothing about this is reassuring," Marcus said, "but it's doable. We'll have you wired so we can hear everything. If something feels wrong, you abort and walk out. No one will stop you. And if someone does, then we come get you." Victor had been watching from across the room. "I'll be in a vehicle 2 blocks away. You'll never be out of range." Sarah pulled up a blueprint of the law firm on a laptop. "The firm is on the 3rd floor of the Meridian building downtown. You'll enter through the main lobby, take the elevator to 3, check in with the receptionist. Your appointment is with an associate named Jennifer Walsh. She's 26, 2 years out of law school, handles most of their preliminary consultations." "What do I even say to her?" "The truth, mostly. You're a college student who recently witnessed something traumatic, and you're thinking about getting your affairs in order. It's not uncommon for young people to want estate planning after a brush with mortality. She'll walk you through the basics, probably try to upsell you on more comprehensive services." Sarah pointed to a spot on the blueprint. "While she's talking, you excuse yourself to use the restroom. It's here, down this hallway. On your way back, you'll pass the file room. That's where we need you to plant the device." "Won't it be locked?" "It should be, but we've arranged for a fire safety inspection to happen during your appointment. The inspector, one of our people, will unlock all the doors as part of his checklist. The file room will be open when you walk past." Mia stared at the blueprint, trying to memorize the layout. This is a lot of moving pieces. "Welcome to my world," Victor said dryly. "But Sarah's team has done this before. It works." "Usually," Sarah added, which did not help Mia's nerves. They spent the rest of the morning rehearsing. Sarah walked her through exactly how to plug in the device, where to position it so it wouldn't be immediately visible, how to act natural if someone walked in. Marcus coached her on what to say if questioned, how to stay calm under pressure. By the time they broke for lunch, Mia's head was pounding. Isabella found her in the library afterward, looking pale. "Dad told me what you're doing," Isabella said. "You don't have to, you know. You could just stay here until they figure out another way." "How long would that take?" "I don't know. Weeks, maybe, months. I can't wait that long. I need my life back." Isabella sat down beside her. "I understand that. But Mia, these people, whoever's behind all this, they're dangerous. More dangerous than Vincent and his thugs. If they figure out what you're doing, your father says he'll protect me. He will. He'll die trying if he has to. That's what scares me." Isabella's voice was quiet. "I've already lost my mother. I can't lose him too." Mia looked at her, seeing the fear beneath the confident exterior. "You really think this could get him killed?" "I think my father takes risks that would terrify normal people. And he does it because he believes he can control every variable, manage every threat. But he can't. No one can." She took Mia's hand. "Just be careful, both of you." The appointment was scheduled for 2 o'clock. At 1:30, Mia got into an SUV with Marcus and Sarah, while Victor followed in a separate vehicle. They drove downtown in silence, Mia's stomach doing flips the entire way. Sarah fitted her with a wire, a tiny microphone that clipped inside her collar, nearly invisible. Remember, we can hear everything. If you need help, just say the word confused. That's our abort signal. Confused, got it. You'll be fine, Marcus said, though he looked almost as tense as Mia felt. Just breathe. Act natural. You're a scared college kid looking for legal advice. That's not far from the truth. The Meridian building was a sleek glass tower in the heart of downtown. Mia got out of the SUV on shaking legs, clutching her backpack. The USB device was in her pocket, small and heavy like a stone. We're right here. Victor's voice came through a tiny earpiece Sarah had given her. 2 blocks north. You're not alone. Mia nodded, even though he couldn't see her, and walked into the building. The lobby was all marble and chrome, professional and intimidating. She found the elevator, pressed the button for the 3rd floor, and watched the numbers climb. The law firm's reception area was tastefully decorated in grays and blues. A young woman sat behind a curved desk, typing on a computer. She looked up when Mia entered. Can I help you? I have a 2 o'clock with Jennifer Walsh. Mia Harper. The receptionist checked her screen. Of course. I'll let her know you're here. Have a seat. Mia sat in one of the waiting area chairs, her heart hammering. Through the glass walls of the conference rooms, she could see people in suits talking, working, living their normal professional lives. None of them knew what she was about to do. Doing great, Victor's voice said in her ear. Just stay calm. A woman appeared from a hallway, mid-20s, blonde, professional smile. Mia Harper? I'm Jennifer Walsh. Thanks for coming in. Mia stood, shook her hand, followed her down a corridor to a small office. Jennifer gestured to a chair and settled behind her desk. So you're interested in estate planning? Yes. I was recently involved in something scary. It made me think about what would happen to my things if something happened to me. The words came out easier than Mia expected, probably because they were mostly true. That's very mature of you. Most people your age don't think about these things. Jennifer pulled out a form. Let's start with some basic information. Do you have any significant assets, property, investments, savings? As Jennifer walked her through the questionnaire, Mia forced herself to focus. Answer the questions. Act interested. Wait for the right moment. Through the walls, she could hear someone talking about a fire safety inspection. Excuse me, Mia said when there was a pause. Could I use your restroom? Of course. Down the hall, 2nd door on the right. Mia walked out of the office, her legs feeling disconnected from her body. The hallway was empty. She found the restroom, went inside, waited exactly 90 seconds like Sarah had instructed. Then she stepped back out. The file room was 3 doors down. As promised, it stood slightly ajar, the lock disabled. Mia glanced both ways, saw no one, and slipped inside. The room was lined with filing cabinets and shelves of document boxes. A computer sat on a desk in the corner, its screen dark. Mia pulled out the USB device with shaking hands and moved toward the computer. Good, Victor's voice said. You're doing fine. Plug it in. She reached for the USB port, her fingers trembling so badly she almost dropped the device. The computer was old, the port on the front partially hidden. She found it, pushed the USB in, heard the soft click of connection. The screen flickered to life. A loading bar appeared, crawling across the display with agonizing slowness. 30 seconds, Sarah's voice whispered in her ear. Just 30 seconds. 29, 28, 27, footsteps in the hallway. Mia's heart stopped. Someone was coming. The footsteps were getting closer. She looked at the loading bar, still going, maybe halfway done. Mia, stay calm, Victor said. If someone comes in, you were just looking for the restroom. You got confused. 15 seconds, 14, 13. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Hello? Is someone in there? Mia's mind went blank. She stared at the computer screen, at the loading bar that was so close but not close enough. Mia, answer them, Marcus urged. Now. Sorry, Mia called out, her voice cracking. I was looking for the bathroom. I think I got turned around. The door opened fully. A man in his 50s stood there, wearing an expensive suit, his expression suspicious. The file room isn't the bathroom. I know. I'm sorry. I'm really nervous about all this legal stuff, and I got confused. She moved away from the computer, praying he wouldn't look at the screen. Could you point me to the restroom? The man studied her, and Mia was certain he could hear her heart pounding. Then his expression softened slightly. End of the hall. You can't miss it. Thank you. Mia hurried past him, not looking back, forcing her feet to walk instead of run. Behind her, she heard him mutter something about young people and close the file room door. In her ear, Sarah's voice. Download complete. You did it. Get out of there. Mia found the actual restroom, locked herself in a stall, and tried not to throw up. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the sink when she finally emerged. She splashed cold water on her face, took 3 deep breaths, and forced herself to walk back to Jennifer's office. Sorry about that, she said, sitting down. I got a little lost. No problem. Where were we? Mia made it through another 10 minutes of questions before Jennifer started outlining their service packages and pricing. Mia pretended to consider, took a brochure, and promised to think about it and call back. Take your time, Jennifer said, walking her to the reception area. This is a big decision. We're here when you're ready. Mia thanked her, shook her hand, and walked out of the office. She took the elevator down, crossed the lobby, stepped out onto the street. The SUV was waiting exactly where it was supposed to be. She climbed in, and only then did her legs finally give out. You did it, Marcus said, his voice filled with something like pride. That was textbook. I almost got caught. But you didn't. You stayed calm, you improvised, and you completed the mission. He smiled. Welcome to the team. Sarah was already on her laptop, watching data stream in from the device Mia had planted. We're in. Full access to their network. This is going to take a few hours to sort through, but we'll find what we need. Victor's vehicle pulled up alongside them. He got out and opened Mia's door, his eyes searching her face. Are you all right? I think so. That was terrifying. You handled it perfectly. He helped her out of the SUV. Come on, let's get you back to the house. You've earned some rest. Back at the estate, Mia collapsed on the sofa in the library while Grace brought tea. Her hands were still shaking, the adrenaline slowly draining away, leaving exhaustion in its wake. Isabella found her there an hour later. Dad told me it worked, that you got the device planted. Barely. Someone almost caught me. But they didn't. Isabella sat beside her. You know what that means? You did something trained professionals struggle with. You went into a situation blind and came out successful. I got lucky. Maybe, but luck favors people who don't panic when things go wrong. She squeezed Mia's hand. I'm proud of you. By evening, Sarah's team had results. Mia was summoned to the operations room where Victor stood at the main screen, his expression grim. We found them, he said without preamble. The person funding Vincent's operation, the one who wanted Isabella hurt. Who is it? Victor pulled up a photograph on the screen. A woman in her 40s, elegant and cold-eyed, standing at some kind of corporate event. Diane Morrison. She runs Morrison Industries, shipping, logistics, warehousing. On paper, she's a legitimate businesswoman. In reality, she controls one of the largest criminal networks on the East Coast. Why does she want to hurt you? Because I took something from her. 5 years ago, I bought out a shipping company she wanted. Outbid her, outmaneuvered her, cost her millions and lost revenue. She's been looking for revenge ever since. Victor's jaw tightened. She thought taking Isabella would destroy me. When that failed, she had Vincent continue trying to eliminate anyone who could identify her involvement, which means she still wants me dead. Yes. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Mia forced herself to ask the obvious question. So what do we do now? Victor turned to face her. Now we've finished this, for real this time. Diane Morrison has built her empire in the shadows. She's careful, protected, always operating through intermediaries. But we have proof now. Financial records linking her to Vincent's operation, communication logs showing she ordered the kidnapping. He crossed his arms. We're going to bring her down. And once we do, you'll finally be safe. How? I'm still working on that. Diane isn't like Vincent. She's smarter, better connected. Taking her down will require more than a tactical raid. It'll require strategy. He looked at Marcus. Start building a case file. Everything we've got on Morrison. Financial crimes, criminal connections, anything that would interest federal prosecutors. If we can't get her directly, we'll bury her in legal problems. That could take months, Marcus said. Then we work fast. Victor's voice was steel. I want options on my desk by tomorrow morning. Multiple approaches. I don't care if we have to burn through every favor I'm owed and every dollar I have. Diane Morrison will not walk away from this. As the team scattered to their tasks, Mia stood frozen. This was her life now, waiting while powerful people maneuvered against each other, hoping Victor's resources and determination would be enough to neutralize a threat she'd never asked for. I'm sorry, Victor said quietly, and she realized everyone else had left. I know this isn't what you wanted. None of this is what I wanted, but here we are. Here we are, he agreed. He was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, you've handled this better than anyone could have expected. You're remarkable, Mia Harper. I'm terrified. Yes. But you're still standing, still fighting. That's what makes you remarkable. He left her alone in the operations room, surrounded by screens showing Diane Morrison's photograph from every angle. Mia stared at the woman who wanted her dead, trying to reconcile the elegant businesswoman in the photos with the monster who'd ordered a kidnapping and tried to murder witnesses. This was the world Victor lived in, a world where successful people were also criminals, where business deals ended in bloodshed, where a simple act of kindness could trap you in a nightmare that refused to end. And Mia was stuck in it until Victor could find a way to make her safe, if he could find a way. The doubt crept in as she stood there alone, and for the first time since this began, Mia wondered if she would ever truly escape. The next 48 hours moved at a pace that made Mia's head spin. Victor's team worked around the clock, building a case against Diane Morrison that grew thicker by the hour. Financial records showing money laundering, witness statements linking her to criminal operations, communication intercepts proving she'd ordered the kidnapping. The evidence piled up like stones in a wall, each one another reason she couldn't escape justice. But Diane wasn't sitting idle. On the second morning, Marcus burst into the operations room where Mia was reviewing transcripts with Sarah. His face was grim. We've got a problem. Diane knows we're coming for her. She's moving assets, burning records, shutting down operations. Someone tipped her off. Victor looked up from his computer, his expression dark. Who? We don't know yet, but she's preparing for war. Her people are arming up, reinforcing her properties. She's calling in favors from every criminal organization she's connected to. Marcus pulled up surveillance footage on the main screen. This was taken an hour ago outside her headquarters. The video showed armed men taking positions around a commercial building, checking weapons, setting up what looked like defensive positions. Mia's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a business dispute anymore. This was heading toward a bloodbath. How many does she have? Victor asked, his voice cold and calculated. At least 30 that we can confirm. Maybe more inside. And she's hired professional security, former military, all of them. This isn't like Vincent's thugs. These people know what they're doing. So do we. Victor. Marcus's voice carried a warning. If we hit that building, people will die. A lot of people. And we might not walk away from it. Then what do you suggest? We let her destroy the evidence, let her disappear and come back at us later when we're not ready? Victor stood up, his hands flat on the table. No, we move now while we still have the advantage. There has to be another way, Mia heard herself say. Everyone turned to look at her. She felt her face flush but forced herself to continue. You said you were building a legal case, evidence for federal prosecutors. Why not just give it to them? Let the authorities handle Diane instead of starting a war. Because the authorities move slowly, Victor said. By the time they get warrants and build their case, Diane will have destroyed everything and disappeared. We need to act now. Even if it means more people dying? The question hung in the air. Victor's jaw tightened, and for a moment Mia thought he might dismiss her entirely. But then something shifted in his expression. What are you suggesting? Mia's mind was racing, an idea forming that terrified her even as she spoke it aloud. What if we force her hand, Make her think she's winning so she doesn't run. Then we trap her with evidence she can't destroy. How? I don't know exactly, but there has to be a way to get her to incriminate herself. Get her talking about what she's done where we can record it. Then we have proof she can't burn or hide. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes sharp. A sting operation. Get her to meet somewhere we control. Wire it for audio and video. Let her talk herself into a corner. She'd never agree to meet, Marcus said. She knows we're hunting her. She would if she thought she was getting something she wanted, Mia said quietly. Like me. The room went dead silent. Victor's eyes locked on hers, his expression unreadable. Absolutely not. Why not? She wants me dead. What if she thought she could get to me, that I'd be vulnerable? Because it's suicide. You're not trained for this. You're not equipped to face someone like Diane Morrison. I wasn't equipped to witness a kidnapping either, or plant a device in a law firm, or survive any of this, but I did. Mia stood up, her hands shaking but her voice steady. You said I was stronger than I thought. Prove you meant it. Let me help end this. No. Victor's voice was final. I won't put you in that position. We'll find another way. There isn't another way, and you know it. The words burst out of Mia before she could stop them. You said yourself. Diane is smart, careful, protected. The only thing she wants badly enough to take a risk is eliminating me. So let's use that. By making you bait? By dangling you in front of a woman who's already tried to have you killed? Victor's composure was cracking, real anger showing through. I brought you into my home to keep you safe, not to sacrifice you. I'm not asking you to sacrifice me. I'm asking you to trust me. Mia moved closer to him, holding his gaze. You've been fighting this battle for me, protecting me, making all the decisions. But this is my life on the line. Don't I get a say in how we end this? Victor stared at her, conflict written across his face. Finally, he turned to Marcus. Is it even possible? Could we set up a trap that would work? Marcus exchanged a look with Sarah. Maybe, if we had the right location. Somewhere Diane would believe was secure but we actually controlled. And if we had a credible reason for Mia to be there that Diane would buy. The storage facility on Pier 17, Sarah said suddenly. It's listed as one of Morrison Industries' properties, but we seized it 3 weeks ago as part of shutting down Vincent's operations. Diane doesn't know we have it. If we made it look like Mia was hiding there, waiting for transport out of the city, Diane would take the bait, Marcus finished. She'd see it as her chance to eliminate a witness while they were exposed. Victor was quiet for a long moment, his expression troubled. Then he looked at Mia. If we do this, and I mean if, you follow every instruction exactly. You wear body armor. You stay in communication at all times. And at the first sign of trouble, you get out. Those are my conditions. Agreed. I'm serious, Mia. One wrong move and this goes from controlled operation to disaster. People have died for less. I understand. He held her gaze a moment longer, then nodded reluctantly. All right. Sarah, start prepping the facility. I want cameras, audio, backup exits. Marcus, position teams in the surrounding buildings. If Diane brings an army, I want us ready to respond. He turned back to Mia. And you're going to spend the next 12 hours learning everything you need to survive this, because I'm not losing anyone else. The training was intense and terrifying. Marcus taught her how to move, how to take cover, how to recognize threats. Sarah showed her the recording equipment they'd be using, how to position herself to capture the clearest audio. Victor himself walked her through what to say, how to keep Diane talking, how to stay calm when every instinct was screaming to run. Isabella found Mia that evening, sitting alone in the library, trying to memorize the facility layout. Dad told me what you're planning, she said, sitting down. He's worried sick, even if he won't show it. I'm worried too, Mia admitted, but I can't keep living like this. Always afraid, always waiting for the next threat. I need it to end. I get that. I really do. But Mia, Isabella's voice was gentle. You don't owe us this. You don't owe me or my father anything. You've already done more than anyone could ask. This isn't about owing anyone, it's about taking back control of my life. Your father's been protecting me, fighting for me, making decisions for me, and I'm grateful. But I need to stop being someone who just gets protected. I need to be someone who fights back." Isabella smiled sadly. "You remind me of my mother." She was quiet too, until something mattered. Then she was the strongest person in any room. She took Mia's hand. "Just promise me you'll come back. Dad's already lost one person he cares about. I don't think he could survive losing another." The words made Mia's chest tighten. "He cares about me? Are you kidding? He barely sleeps anymore because he's worried about you. He checks on you 3 times a night to make sure you're safe. He tears apart anyone who suggests putting you at risk." Isabella squeezed her hand. "My father doesn't let people into his life easily, but you're in, which means you matter to him. A lot." That night, Mia couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark, thinking about Victor's quiet intensity, the way he looked at her like she was something precious and breakable, thinking about Isabella's words, thinking about the choice she'd made that had started all of this, picking up a wallet instead of walking away. She'd spent her whole life being invisible, being quiet, avoiding anything that might draw attention. And in one moment, one decision, she'd stepped into a world she never imagined existed. A world of violence and power, and people who protected what they loved with ruthless determination. Tomorrow, she'd face the person who wanted her dead. Tomorrow, she'd either end this nightmare or become another casualty of Victor's dangerous world. But tonight, she was just Mia Harper, lying awake in a borrowed room, wondering when exactly she'd become brave enough to stop hiding. The morning came too soon. Grace brought breakfast that Mia couldn't eat. Sarah arrived with the recording equipment, a tiny device that would capture everything said within 30 feet. Marcus checked her body armor 3 times, adjusting straps and making sure the plate sat correctly. And Victor stood in the doorway of the operations room, watching it all with an expression that made Mia's heart ache. He looked like a man preparing to send someone to their death. "We can still call this off," he said quietly when the others stepped away. "Find another approach. You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." Mia fastened the last strap on the armor. "For both of us. You need to stop fighting my battles, and I need to stop letting you." "I've been fighting battles my entire adult life. I'm good at it." "I know, but this one's mine." She looked up at him. "I'm not asking you to stop protecting me. I'm asking you to let me stand beside you instead of behind you." Something in Victor's expression cracked. He reached out and touched her face, his hand warm against her cheek. "You're extraordinary. You know that?" "I'm terrified." "That's what makes you extraordinary." He dropped his hand. "When this is over, we need to talk about what comes next, for both of us." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't want you to leave. I mean, Isabella's right. I care about you more than I should. I mean..." He stopped, shaking his head. "After. We'll talk after." Before Mia could respond, Marcus called out, "We've got movement. Diane's people just left her headquarters. They're heading toward the pier." Victor's expression shifted instantly, the vulnerable moment gone, replaced by the cold commander. "How many?" 10 vehicles. Maybe 40 people." "She's bringing an army to kill one college student," Victor said grimly. "All right, everyone in position. Mia, you're with me until we reach the facility. Then you go in alone like we planned." The drive to Pier 17 felt both too long and too short. Mia sat in the back of the SUV, body armor heavy on her chest, recording device hidden beneath her jacket, trying to remember everything she'd been taught. Stay calm. Keep Diane talking. Position yourself near the cameras. Get the confession. Get out. Simple, terrifying, possibly suicidal. The facility came into view, a squat concrete building surrounded by shipping containers, overlooking the dark water of the harbor. Victor's teams were already in position in the surrounding structures, invisible but watching. Snipers on the rooftops, tactical units ready to breach at his signal, a small army of his own, waiting to rescue her if things went wrong. The SUV stopped a block away. Victor turned to face her. "Last chance to walk away." "I'm not walking away." "Then remember, you're not alone. We're right here. You're never out of our sight." He held her gaze. "And Mia, come back. That's an order." She nodded, not trusting her voice, and got out of the vehicle. The walk to the facility felt surreal, like moving through a dream. Her legs carried her forward while her mind screamed to run the other way. But she kept going, kept moving, until she reached the door. Inside, the facility was exactly as she'd studied in the blueprints. Open floor plan, concrete pillars, boxes, and equipment scattered around like someone had left in a hurry. The cameras were hidden, but she knew where they were. The microphones would pick up everything. She positioned herself near the center of the space and waited. 15 minutes later, she heard vehicles outside, doors slamming, voices shouting orders. Then the main door opened and Diane Morrison walked in, flanked by 6 armed men. She was smaller than Mia expected, elegant in an expensive coat, her dark hair pulled back severely. But her eyes were cold and calculating as they swept the room before landing on Mia. "So you're the witness," Diane said, her voice cultured and precise. The college girl who couldn't mind her own business. Mia forced herself to stand still, to not show fear. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Saw something you shouldn't have seen. Made a phone call that cost me a great deal of money and resources." Diane moved closer, her men spreading out to block the exits. "You should have walked away, Mia Harper. Should have pretended you saw nothing. Now you're a problem that needs to be solved. By killing me? Is that how you solve all your problems? When necessary. And you, unfortunately, are very necessary to eliminate." Diane's smile was cold. "Victor Hale has been protecting you, keeping you safe in his little fortress. But he can't protect you forever. Eventually you'd have to leave. And when you did, my people would be waiting." "So you ordered the kidnapping," Mia said, making sure her voice carried to the microphones. "You paid Vincent Zhao to take Isabella Hale." "I paid Vincent to do many things. Taking Victor's daughter was just one of them. I wanted him to hurt the way I hurt when he destroyed my business prospects. I wanted him to feel helpless and afraid." Diane's expression hardened. "But the incompetent fool failed, and now here we are." "Here we are," Mia echoed, "with you admitting to kidnapping, attempted murder, and conspiracy, all on record." Diane's eyes narrowed. "What?" "The building's wired. Audio and video. Everything you just said was recorded and transmitted to federal agents who are probably getting warrants right now." For a moment, Diane just stared. Then she laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You think you're clever. You think you've trapped me. But the only one trapped is you." She gestured to her men. "Kill her. Make it quick." The men raised their weapons. Mia's heart stopped. This was it. She'd gotten the confession, but she was about to die anyway. Then the windows exploded. Victor's teams came through every entrance simultaneously, doors, windows, even the skylights. Flash grenades detonated, filling the space with blinding light and deafening sound. Mia hit the floor, covering her head, as gunfire erupted around her. Someone grabbed her, Marcus, his voice shouting in her ear, "Stay down! Don't move!" The firefight lasted maybe 30 seconds, but felt like hours. When the noise finally stopped, Mia looked up to see Diane's men on the ground, disarmed or unconscious. Diane herself was on her knees, hands zip-tied behind her back, Victor standing over her with cold fury in his eyes. "You made a mistake," Victor said quietly. "You threatened my daughter. You tried to kill someone under my protection, and you thought you could win." He crouched down to her level. "You were wrong." Diane spat at him, defiant even in defeat. "This isn't over. I have lawyers, connections, resources. You think recording me changes anything?" "Actually, yes." A new voice spoke from the doorway. A woman in a dark suit walked in, flanked by federal agents. "Diane Morrison, you're under arrest for kidnapping, conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, and about 15 other charges we're still counting. You have the right to remain silent, though from what we just heard, you've said more than enough already." As the agents hauled Diane to her feet and led her away, still protesting, Victor turned to Mia. She was sitting on the floor, Marcus still crouched beside her protectively, her whole body shaking from adrenaline and shock. Victor knelt in front of her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, unable to speak. "You did it. You got her confession. You ended this." His hand touched her face again, gentle despite the violence that had just ended. You were incredible. I thought I was going to die. So did I, for about 3 seconds. Then my team reminded Diane why it's a bad idea to threaten people I care about. He helped her to her feet. Come on, let's get you out of here. Outside, police and federal vehicles were converging on the facility. Diane was being loaded into a van, still shouting threats that no one was listening to. Her men were being arrested one by one, their private army dismantled in minutes. Isabella was waiting at the SUV, her face pale with worry. When she saw Mia, she ran forward and pulled her into a fierce hug. "Don't ever do that again," she whispered. "Dad was losing his mind. I've never seen him so scared." "I'm okay," Mia managed. "It's over. It's really over." "Yes," Victor said, coming up behind them. "It is." The next few hours were a blur of statements given to federal agents, debriefings with Victor's team, and the slow realization that she'd actually survived. The recording of Diane's confession had been transmitted not just to Victor's team but to the FBI. Combined with the financial evidence Sarah had gathered, it was enough to ensure Diane Morrison would spend the rest of her life in prison. By evening, Mia was back at the estate, exhausted and overwhelmed. Grace had drawn her a bath and left food she couldn't eat. She lay in the enormous bathtub, letting hot water wash away the fear and adrenaline, and tried to process what happened next. The threat was gone. Diane was arrested. Vincent and his people were in custody. Richard Chen had already agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. The nightmare was actually, truly over, which meant she could leave, could go back to her apartment, her classes, her normal life. The thought should have filled her with relief. Instead, it made her chest ache. There was a knock on the bedroom door. Mia climbed out of the bath, pulled on the robe Grace had left, and opened it to find Victor standing there. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Of course." He came in but didn't sit, just stood by the window looking out at the gardens. "I spoke with the federal prosecutors. They're offering you witness protection if you want it. A new name, new location, new life, complete safety." "Do I need it? With Diane arrested?" "Probably not, but the offer's there if you want to disappear." He turned to look at her. "Or you could stay here." Mia's breath caught. "What?" "Stay here, with me, with Isabella. Not as someone being protected, but as," he struggled with the words, "as someone who belongs here. Someone who wants to be here." "Victor, I'm a college student. You run an empire. What would I even do here?" "Whatever you want. Finish school. Start over. Figure out who you are when you're not terrified and running for your life." He moved closer. "I know it's complicated. I know I come with baggage and danger and a world you never asked to be part of. But these last 2 weeks, watching you find courage you didn't know you had, watching you stand up when you were terrified, watching you become someone extraordinary. I don't want that to end. You barely know me. I know you picked up a wallet when you could have walked away. I know you called for help when you were terrified. I know you stood in front of a criminal mastermind and got her to confess because you refused to keep living in fear. I know you're the bravest person I've ever met, and I'm not ready to let you go." Mia felt tears pricking her eyes. "I'm not brave. I'm still the same scared girl who couldn't talk to people without shaking. I had to stop being afraid more than I had to stay safe. That's what brave means." Victor's hand touched her cheek. "Stay, please. Not because you're in danger, not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to. Because maybe you feel this too." She did feel it. That was the terrifying part. Somewhere between witnessing a kidnapping and confronting Diane Morrison, somewhere between being protected and learning to protect herself, she'd fallen for Victor Hale. For his intensity and his surprising gentleness, for the way he looked at her like she mattered, for the way he'd fought to keep her safe while respecting her need to fight beside him. What about Isabella? What would she think? "She already told me I'd be an idiot to let you leave," her exact words. Despite everything, Mia laughed. "She did? She did. She likes you, respects you, thinks you're good for me." He smiled slightly. She might be right. Mia thought about her apartment, her classes, Her safe, boring life that suddenly seemed impossibly far away. Thought about who she'd been 2 weeks ago and who she'd become. Thought about the fact that she'd survived impossible things and discovered she was stronger than she'd ever imagined. If I stay, she said slowly, things would be different. I'm not just going to hide in your house being protected. I need to do something. Be something. Whatever you want. Sarah mentioned you have a gift for staying calm under pressure. She's been talking about expanding our intelligence operations. Could use someone with your particular skills. You want me to work for you? I want you to work with me, if that's what you want. Or you could go back to school, start a business, anything. I just want you here, with me, with us. Mia looked at him. This man who'd swept into her life like a storm and changed everything. Who'd shown her she was capable of things she'd never dreamed. Who'd given her a choice, even when it terrified him. Okay, she said quietly. I'll stay. The relief on Victor's face was almost painful to see. He pulled her close, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. Thank you, he whispered against her hair. Thank you. They stood there for a long moment, two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and somehow made it through to the other side. Finally, Victor pulled back. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll start figuring out what comes next. For both of us. He left, and Mia climbed into bed. But before sleep could claim her, there was another knock. Isabella peeked in. Dad told me you're staying. I am. Isabella's smile was radiant. Good. I was hoping you would. This place needs more people who aren't afraid to stand up to him. And I need someone around who understands what it's like to survive his world. Your father's not that bad. No, but he's intense and protective, and he needs people who can handle that. She sat on the edge of the bed. I'm glad you're staying, Mia. Really glad. It'll be nice to have someone around who gets it. After Isabella left, Mia finally let herself relax. The threat was over. Diane was arrested, and somehow, impossibly, she'd found a place where she belonged. 6 months later, Mia stood in the operations room watching Sarah's team coordinate surveillance on a new target. She'd finished her semester remotely, maintaining her GPA while learning the intricacies of Victor's world. Sarah had been right. She did have a talent for intelligence work. Her ability to remember details, to stay calm under pressure, to see patterns others missed, made her invaluable to the team. But she'd also kept her promise to herself. She wasn't just someone being protected anymore. She was someone who fought back, someone who stood beside Victor instead of behind him, someone who discovered that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was choosing to act despite it. Victor walked into the room and smiled when he saw her. That smile still made her heart skip. 6 months together, and she was still discovering new things about him. The way he read voraciously, the way he laughed at Isabella's terrible jokes, the way he looked at Mia like she was the most important thing in his world. How's the surveillance going? He asked. Good. We should have what we need by tomorrow. She turned to face him. Did you talk to the prosecutor about the witness protection program? I did. They're setting her up with a new identity in California. She'll be safe. They'd made it part of their mission, protecting witnesses, helping people who found themselves trapped in dangerous situations through no fault of their own. People like Mia had been. Victor's resources and Mia's understanding of what it felt like to be terrified and alone made them an effective team. Isabella called, Victor said. She's having lunch with us tomorrow, says she has news. Good news or bad news? With my daughter, it's hard to tell. But his tone was affectionate. Isabella had healed from her ordeal, though she still had nightmares sometimes. She'd started therapy, started opening up about the fear she'd carried for so long, and she'd found strength in helping others, volunteering with organizations that supported kidnapping survivors. The Hale family had been forever changed by that rainy night, but they'd survived it, grown from it, become something stronger. That evening, Mia stood in the garden watching the sun set over the estate. It was so different from the rain-soaked street where this had all begun. So far from the terrified girl who'd almost walked away from a wallet lying in a puddle. She heard footsteps behind her and felt Victor's arms slide around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. What are you thinking about? He asked. How different everything is now. How different I am. Do you regret it? Picking up that wallet? Mia thought about it seriously. About the fear and violence, about the danger she'd faced, about the nightmares that still woke her sometimes, about everything she'd lost and everything she'd gained. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it because it brought me here. To you, to Isabella, to a life I never knew I could have. You're extraordinary, Mia Harper. You keep saying that because it keeps being true." He turned her around to face him. "You know what the most remarkable thing is? You didn't just survive. You transformed. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and used it to become someone stronger. Someone who helps other people survive their worst moments too." "I had good teachers. You had courage. That was all you. That was always you, even when you couldn't see it." He kissed her forehead. "I love you. You know that, right?" She did know. He told her every day, in words and actions, in the way he looked at her and listened to her and trusted her judgment, "I love you too." They stood there in the fading light, two people who'd found each other in darkness and built something beautiful from the wreckage. Victor had lost his wife and nearly lost his daughter. Mia had been too afraid to even speak above a whisper, but together they discovered that the strongest foundations are built from surviving the impossible. A year later, Mia sat in the library watching Isabella play with her niece, Victor's granddaughter, born 3 months earlier to Isabella, and the man she'd met at one of her support groups. A good man who understood trauma and healing, who loved Isabella for her strength rather than despite her scars. Victor walked in and sat beside Mia, reaching for her hand. "Sarah wants to know if you're available for the Montgomery case next week." "The trafficking operation?" "That's the one. Could be dangerous." "Then I should definitely be there. Those victims need someone who understands what it's like to be afraid and trapped." She looked at him. "I'm not the same scared girl anymore, Victor. You helped me see that, but I remember what she felt like, and that makes me better at this job." "It does." He was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking about what we're building here. It's not just a security operation anymore. It's become something more, a way to help people who have nowhere else to turn." "Are you saying you want to make it official?" "I'm saying maybe we should. Create a foundation dedicated to protecting witnesses, helping victims, providing support for people trapped in impossible situations. We have the resources. We have the expertise. We could actually make a difference." Mia felt something warm spread through her chest. This was what she'd been searching for without knowing it: purpose. A way to turn her trauma into something meaningful. A way to help others find the courage she'd discovered in herself. "The Harper Hale Foundation," she said, "has a nice ring to it." Victor smiled. "Actually, I was thinking the Isabella Foundation, named after the person who started all of this, the woman who fought back even when she was terrified." She'd love that. They told Isabella that evening, and she cried, the good kind of tears that meant healing and hope. The foundation launched 6 months later with Mia running operations and Victor providing resources. They helped dozens of people that first year. Witnesses who needed protection, victims who needed support, people who'd seen terrible things and needed someone to tell them they were strong enough to survive. And through it all, Mia kept learning, kept growing, kept discovering that the quiet girl who'd been too afraid to order coffee had always had the strength inside her. She'd just needed a reason to find it. 2 years after that rainy night, Mia stood in front of a room full of survivors. People the foundation had helped. People who were still finding their courage. Victor sat in the back, watching her with pride. Isabella sat beside him, her daughter on her lap, 3 generations of strength in one family. "I know you're scared," Mia told the room. "I know it feels impossible. I know you wake up every day wondering if you'll ever feel safe again. I know because I've been there. 2 years ago, I witnessed something terrible, and it threw me into a world I didn't understand, surrounded by danger I couldn't escape. I was terrified every single day." She paused, making eye contact with the people in the audience who were living that fear right now. "But I learned something. Fear doesn't make you weak. Fear means you understand the danger. What makes you strong is what you do with that fear. Do you let it paralyze you, or do you use it as fuel to fight back, to survive, to become someone who helps others survive too?" She saw heads nodding, saw recognition in eyes that had seen too much. You're here because someone hurt you, someone threatened you, someone made you feel powerless. But you're also here because you're still standing, still fighting, still looking for a way forward. That's courage. That's strength. And I promise you, if I can find it, so can you. After the meeting, people came up to thank her, to share their stories, to ask for advice. Mia listened to each one, remembering what it felt like to be where they were. Scared. Uncertain. Hoping someone would tell them it would be okay. She couldn't promise it would be easy, but she could promise they'd survive. Because she had. Because courage wasn't something you were born with. It was something you found when you needed it most. That night, Victor found her in the library, the same place where they'd had so many important conversations. You were amazing today, he said, sitting beside her. The way you connected with them, gave them hope. I just told them the truth, that fear and courage can exist together, that surviving doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. Victor took her hand. I've been thinking about something, about us, about the future. Mia's heart skipped. What about it? He pulled out a small box and opened it to reveal a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. Marry me. Not because you're in danger and need protection. Not because you owe me anything, but because I love you. Because you're the strongest person I know. Because I want to spend the rest of my life watching you help people find their courage the way you found yours. Mia looked at the ring, at Victor's face, at the life they'd built together from ashes and fear and impossible odds. She thought about the girl she'd been, too scared to speak, too afraid to be seen. And she thought about the woman she'd become, someone who faced down criminals, who helped survivors, who'd learned that the bravest thing you can do is refuse to let fear win. Yes, she said, her voice steady and sure. Yes, I'll marry you. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. Isabella stood beside Mia as her maid of honor, wearing a dress the exact color of hope. Marcus was Victor's best man, looking uncomfortable in a suit, but happy for them both. Sarah and Grace cried. The foundation staff cheered. And Mia, standing beside Victor and speaking vows about courage and love and choosing each other every day, finally understood what it meant to be brave. It didn't mean never being afraid. It meant building a life despite the fear. It meant choosing to love and trust and hope even when the world had given you every reason not to. She'd started this journey as a girl too scared to be seen. She'd ended it as a woman who helped others find their voice. And somewhere along the way, in the darkness between witnessing a crime and falling in love, she'd discovered the most important truth of all. Courage isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose, again and again, every single day. Years later, Mia would stand in other rooms, telling other survivors that they were stronger than they knew. She'd help build a network of safe houses, support systems, protection services for people who had nowhere else to turn. She'd raise children with Victor, children who grew up understanding that strength comes in many forms, that courage means different things to different people, and that the best thing you can do with your privilege is use it to help others. But she'd never forget that rainy night, the scream that changed everything, the wallet she almost didn't pick up, the choice that seemed so small at the time but rippled outward into a life she'd never imagined. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just refuse to walk away, refuse to pretend you didn't see, refuse to let fear make your decisions for you. And sometimes, when you're brave for just 60 seconds, it changes your entire life. Mia Harper had learned that lesson in the hardest way possible, but she'd survived it, grown from it, become someone who helped others survive their darkest moments too. And in the end, that was the greatest gift fear could give. The opportunity to discover you were stronger than you ever knew. The girl who was too afraid to be seen had become the woman who taught others how to stand in the light. And that, Mia thought as she looked at her family, at the foundation that bore Isabella's name, at the life she'd built from courage she didn't know she had. That was the real happy ending. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let it win.